Our story begins with a hero face-to-face with the supreme master of a high-difficulty dungeon, a wingless dragon, Seberumos, level 67. Everyone is exhausted, and the dragon keeps gathering power in its mouth. The dwarf paladin won't be able to block that ability this time, but out of nowhere he notices a green being and becomes frightened. A green being with skinny legs and a big belly. The dungeon boss has finished gathering power in its mouth, and in front of it is a goblin holding a club. What is a goblin doing there? Then the dragon unleashes its power towards the goblin, which devastates everything around. But that goblin remains smiling and manages to dodge with great ease. No one believes that a goblin can be that agile. Did he really manage to destroy that dragon? But all we see now is just half of the body of that dungeon boss. A goblin killed the Cerberus with just one hit. Nobody understands anything. A monster attacking another monster. It must be a summoned monster. One of them tells the others to look up the hill. Now we see a guy with a peculiar smile. They are sure that guy summoned that goblin. To understand the story, we need to go back a little. There he is, a construction worker carrying cement. This guy is working, smiling all day long while he thinks he is a goblin. He is obviously weak, and the best place for him is in a low-level dungeon, a being that will never be able to leave the lower levels of the dungeons. Oh boy, he sits down, rests while thinking that there are many people winning the lottery at this very moment. Overnight, he looks up and thinks that a goblin will always be a goblin, no matter how much experience he gains. Then he notices some people talking about Lord T. It seems that the guys are playing such a good game that they haven't even shown up for work, and they've heard that he got some kind of hidden class, and it seems they can make money with this game. This game, Gateway to Paradise, is an immersive virtual reality game that is extremely popular right now. It's so real that people forget their own reality, but it's not accessible to everyone. The technology is expensive, and lower class people can enjoy it at gaming houses with internet across the country. But everything comes at a price. Real-world money has started to become part of game money, and in-game items have turned into real-life currency. In that game, it was a historic milestone in game development. Oh, he used to play that game a lot. After a while, he returned to his real-life game, and now it's time to use his special skill, Ultimate Mining Stone Hit. Oh, he mined 3 ores out of nowhere. That guy drops the pickaxe and starts yelling. It's all very annoying. After all the effort he's put in so far, he hasn't found anything and is deeply sunk in debt. You know that everyone is the protagonist of their own story, but where's the part where he becomes a legendary hero and a beautiful girl loses him to marriage? Then it seems like his prayers are answered. My goodness, an advanced healing crystal. If he sells this, it should be worth at least 300,000. And look at that sly grin. Now he has started to thank for being a miner, hey. While he's licking that mineral, someone approaches and he sees that it's a woman, a very beautiful woman, who immediately asks if he's been mining there every day. This means that his mining skill must be very high. They were walking through a dungeon, but unfortunately, there was a very large rock blocking the way. Her group members are strong, but none of them know how to mine. So she is quite shy and still wanted a skilled miner like him to help. This guy might be skilled, but his level is low and he can't venture into dungeons safely. The guy interrupts, saying that he will help. If a monster shows up, all he has to do is follow them and pick up the ores. But look at our hero's face. The dwarf keeps saying that he only saw a dwarf, and he thought the dwarf was also a good miner. No chance. He pauses for a moment and starts to think if by joining the group, he could gain experience and maybe pick up some high-level ores. It wouldn't be a bad choice, but would he be able to return safely? And can he actually revive in this game? But he knows that, in that game, there's also that. Then, the girl grabs his arm and starts caressing it, giving him several little kisses. Miners are the type of men that attract her the most, because they always have the strongest arms. A guy can't resist her charm, and after a while, he decides that while they are in the dungeon, he started to think about what he was thinking while looking at a level 7 gray wolf. He realizes that the monster levels are lower than he thought, but there are many monsters there, and he has the lowest level compared to those monsters. The wolf lunges to devour him, and he screams his mother's name. The girl tells him not to move and uses a skill called Salmandra, defeating all the monsters at once. She comes closer, asking if he's hurt. Her name is Catherine, the level 39 mage, and he thanks her for the help while thinking, she annihilated all the gray wolves with a single blow. Ah, this girl is so strong. She wipes her eyes, telling him not to scare her like that and to stay close because it's very dangerous. Wow, look at the face he's making. Now he starts to sweat cold, thinking that she wants him to stay by her side forever. Finally, the great romance he wanted is happening. The other guy, while dodging 2 wolves with his hands behind his back, tells him not to be surprised. They don't usually play maps like this. He takes the staff from his back and spins it, killing all the wolves at once. That skill was the giant wheel swing. The guy keeps talking that they are only there to see what's inside that place that can only be broken with high-level mining. They skipped that part because they didn't have a choice, and investing points in skills like mining seems like a huge waste. But now people like you are needed. But what does this guy really mean by people like him? Is he thinking I'm an idiot? This guy can't mine without him, so he starts getting irritated, saying he can't ignore this. He thinks I have no combat skills, so he starts mining again using his mining ultimate and begins breaking the rocks as if they were nothing. That guy has a lot of energy for mining, but unfortunately he hasn't found anything yet. The dwarf believes that if there's nothing inside that ore, the losses will be enormous, but the guy says there is. And if that's the case, he's going to pay for wasting his time in this stupid dungeon. Meanwhile, our hero is out there mining, being undervalued and risking his life for crumbs. He's so used to it that he can't even get angry anymore, and that's what irritates him. He tries to stay focused on just finishing his task, getting paid, and leaving. It's just another normal day in the life of an insignificant miner who keeps breaking the rocks. After a while of breaking several rocks, they discover something that leaves everyone speechless. A gigantic gate. It looks like it's a hidden dungeon. One of the others can't believe they actually found a hidden dungeon, and it seems they can earn special rewards and even change classes in a hidden dungeon. One guy says they hit the jackpot. Now another says we, while the miner is smiling, thinking he will change classes. The guy is back there, drawing his sword and activating the poke mode in sequence. The miner is cowardly struck from behind. The attack was so strong it dealt 480 damage and he can barely breathe. The girl smiles looking at him and says it's very hard to find a hidden dungeon in such a low-level area, even more so, and all they needed was someone with lousy mining skills to access it. The girl asks the dear miner not to hold any grudges. They did all the fighting and he just walked along while the boy thinks they really knew there was a hidden dungeon there. Right from the start, the guy grabs the miner's head as he asks if they knew. But this guy says he knew from the beginning. He truly thinks they would waste time there. He mined well, and for that reason, he's going to give him a quick death. And off goes the life of a poor, naive, and useful miner. Suddenly, he wakes up, and it seems he's still inside the dungeon, but the guys hadn't killed him. Then he realizes that the advanced healing crystal was broken, which means he died and came back. It's all over now. The 300,000 he was going to get from selling that crystal. He starts to cry and pound the ground. The guy died and revived, and he's broke again with no money. Then, that huge door starts to open for him, which means that dungeon is not complete yet. If those players think he's leaving after losing his healing crystal, no way. He begins to crawl into the dungeon, and the only thought this guy has in his head is to change his life. Also, in the end, the desire he has now is to become the worst nightmare for those guys. So he manages to do it. Hidden dungeon, here we go. He jumped inside, but look how amazing. He jumped in not knowing what was there, and it seems there are stairs. Good. He arrived determined, losing 80 life points, now left with only 20 HP. He really went inside, and a huge goblin is sitting in a chair. There is the hidden dungeon, Goblin's Sanctuary. Is everything there just goblins? We know goblins are like beginners, right? It should be something much stronger, shouldn't it? And he starts to observe everything and notices it's very quiet. Where did the other people go? As he walks, he comes across a hand. He looks down and sees that broken dwarf on the ground. What could have happened there? But on that dwarf's body, there is a message. Supreme Dwarf, you can use some skill to revive me. Unfortunately, he doesn't have that kind of skill. It seems like he's holding the revive button to avoid losing that hidden dungeon. This guy is so greedy. Then, suddenly, the system starts emitting a warning. Attention! This is a high difficulty dungeon well beyond your level. Please exit immediately. Out of nowhere, he hears a scream, but that voice is quite familiar. He looks back and sees a giant hand crushing that guy and enormous feet stomping on the girl. Wow, wasn't that the Goblin Sanctuary? Then he sees Ginger, level 80, a strange being with a worm's head. What an ugly and grotesque thing is that? And it's level 80. If you thought it was ugly, when it opens its mouth, it gets worse. It has a mouth that looks like a leech's mouth, full of teeth, and that guy is going to become its snack. And if you thought it was going to swallow, no, it did something much worse. It put that guy's body in its mouth and started grinding, spinning its mouth at full speed. And our miner boy, who had never seen anyone die in his life, is now watching all of this. Do you remember that this game aimed for ultimate realism? And that includes pain, of course. It has a safety system that ensures monsters of equal or lower level don't hurt as much. But he looks at the girl, also caught between the toes of that monster as she screams for help. He keeps thinking that if you're hit by a monster that is is much higher level than you, the story changes completely. You can feel all the pain. He starts screaming that there's no way in hell he's going to save that stupid woman's life. He can't do anything against that damn monster. The pain is a trauma that doesn't go away just because your character revives. It directly affects your nervous system and, in some more drastic cases, can lead to brain death. While the monster is having its meal and holding the dessert, he is tiptoeing. After all, he can't let that thing catch him and kill him slowly while it walks. He tries not to cling to the feeling of guilt because they were the ones who abandoned him first. Now he starts to run, thinking he is too weak and that he won't help anyone. He has to survive, even if it's alone. Now I don't know if he's laughing or crying, and that guy looks like a goblin too. And look who likes him. Lord Goblin feels some kind of affinity for his cowardice and weakness. As he cries, praying not to die, he observes the window of the Lord Goblin system. But what kind of goblin could be a lord? He watches that giant goblin with thin legs and a big belly, as it says he is weak and cowardly. Unfortunately, he didn't want to be born like this. He didn't want to be a coward and weak. If he were strong, he could save everyone. Even if he had a bit of strength, he wouldn't have run away. And all he sees now are people who had a little bit of strength being completely crushed. All that guy wanted was a job that nobody despised. He wanted to defeat various monsters in dungeons and not be a pathetic miner. Imagine if he had strong skills like everyone else. All the parents he never knew left him were just debts. He grew up unable to do anything. He pounds his hand on his chest and asks the goblin if that's what he calls being weak. Being insulted for it? Why should he be insulted for that? He shouts at that goblin statue. If he's weak, then a goblin is weak too. Who are you to say that someone there is weak? In the real world, everyone despises him. Now, in the game, a goblin feels sorry for him too. He shouts that now he's a goblin, so what? Damn it! Then the system starts to say that now he is an honorary goblin, and he will even receive help from some goblins. He qualifies for the conditions to change to a hidden class. Would he like to change his class to Goblin Summoner? He stops crying and starts to stare at that window. Can this really be called a hidden class? Are you kidding? He doesn't want this kind of junk. He said no, but the system detects that yes, now he is a goblin. And the class change was completed. You remember there was a monster behind devouring everyone, right? Well, that monster is behind him now, and it's too late to run. Damn, there's no going back anymore since he has that ability to summon goblins. He then calls his first goblin. A magic circle appears on the ground, and a goblin starts to emerge, all smiles, with a typical goblin grin, while he thinks a weak goblin has shown up. And you know what happens to the weak. They are used as bait for others to run away. He sends the goblin to go ahead and defeat that monster for him. No, that goblin isn't a normal goblin. He already appears with a club. The monster roars as the fight begins. Now is the time for him to run away from there. As he looks back, preparing to flee, the goblin lands just a single hit on that monster's stomach. The hit is so powerful that just that one blow was enough to split that monster in half. Wow, he didn't understand anything. One hit was not supposed to be weak. Look at his face, completely puzzled. And now he gained several experience points and even learned new skills. One of them would be walking with goblins. Even that goblin gained experience. As that goblin absorbs all the experience points, he keeps smiling more and more. Damn, that skinny little goblin is at max level. That guy got eaten by that monster, completely chewed up in a slow and brutal manner. While the girl was stranded at his feet, watching everything in the real world, she screamed and a security guard rushed in to try to save her. He quickly took off the virtual reality glasses, but it was already too late. Unfortunately, she suffered a shock and couldn't recover. Now she was forced to retire. Meanwhile, in Dandel, that goblin keeps delivering endless power strikes, and he continues leveling up with every hit that Goblin makes. And he levels up. The goblin kicked, ripped apart, sliced, and tore through monsters. He just kept leveling up and started telling the goblin to take a little pause so he could pick up the stones from the ground. He was managing, but just look at the happiness on his face as he said he couldn't carry anymore. He already had a mana stone from a low-level monster, Wolf Claw. There are several other items in that backpack. This guy's name is Who Used You, a goblin summoner, and he was already at level 31, with strength 4.2, skill 0, intelligence 1, luck 0, and 26 attribute points. The moment he took this goblin, he realized this was the moment he had defeated that hidden dungeon. His team members were all dead, and the only way to get out of there wasn't by completing the dungeon or through death. That goblin defeated the dungeon alone and didn't level up at all, while he had already reached level 31. He tries to check the goblin's information, but it's all unavailable. It makes no sense for a low-rank monster like a goblin to be this strong. I think this goblin is already at maximum level. And is this a bug? Ah, but if it is a bug, he doesn't mind taking full advantage of it. Next to this lovely goblin, he won't have anything left to mine. He could become the best player in the Paradise Gate. So, a little further away, at Nara Bank, a clerk calls customer number 36. Everything he collected inside that dungeon totaled 97,000, and he can convert items directly into cash at the bank. But he has more. Items he wants to sell. A membrane from Jaeger's heart. The clerk was surprised. She quickly leaves to call the director to take a look at this. Then, sometime later, the director arrives, even offering him coffee. That is the manager of Nara Bank. Wow, but the coffee is cold. He just went there to convert his items into cash because he needs to speak with the bank manager. But the manager has better places to allocate all his money, and that was why he was called to talk to the manager. Wouldn't it be a total waste to leave all his money in a checking account? That guy wants to sell some great investment options. Ah, he knows that investment is an important business, but is that something a manager can really do? In the end, at most, he has 1 million of a certain currency, but he must be mistaken. 1 million. Ah, the value of the membrane heart of the Jaeger, at today's exchange rate, is valued at least 230 million. Just the hide of one. But die. He managed to pay 10% of his debt thanks to that goblin. Then, he didn't even call, and the goblin came rushing to his side. He stares at that goblin and calls him all cute. This is the ugliest goblin I've ever seen on the face of the earth. He tries to develop the goblin but fails miserably, and apparently, he is attracting attention wherever he goes. Some are thinking that this guy is going to die as soon as the time comes, while others comment, there's an ugly goblin walking around the city. It looks like someone summoned this ugly thing. People start laughing, saying that the ugly goblin matches the ugly summoner. But the goblin keeps jumping and laughing. Then someone calls him. Oh, what's this? A goblin walking around the city? That's Pato, the annihilator from the Everton Guild, that extremely famous guy. Wow, this is really bad. Apparently that guy wants to kill that goblin. Someone starts shouting, saying that the monster is not a monster, but this guy doesn't care at all and swings a huge cut towards the goblin, dealing an incredible 0 damage. The goblin in turn retaliates, delivering just one blow, infinite damage to that guy. He had already activated his PK mode, and the pain level does not exceed the fainting threshold to prevent high-level players from bullying other players. Just a single strike was able to break the whole body of that guy. Look at that. Pato the Annihilator has been annihilated. A goblin killed a man. What a shame. If they find out that it was he who summoned this monster, he will get into a lot of trouble. A hooded figure comes in saying it's pathetic. Humiliated by a goblin. What a shame is this, Pato the Annihilator. A goblin is just a monster not worth facing. Then that whole guild approaches with the level 28 brute assassin appears. It's Chica, the level 30 assassin, and the level 27 archer woman from 1, and that other level 28 speedmaster assassin. That goblin is going to pay for messing with their guild, and things are getting more complicated. He knows his goblin won't lose to those guys, but taking out everyone in a guild is going to be a big problem. The guy tells everyone to calm down and says that he will take care of that goblin himself, but the assassin says that if he interferes, he will die too. It seems there's no way to intervene in this fight. All he can do is tell them that if everyone from a famous guild teams up to face a mere goblin, it's going to leave a bad impression on everyone in town. But the goblin keeps attacking, and now used a stone throwing ability. That stone hits the speedmaster right in the head, dealing a fatal blow. Everyone charges towards that goblin. He starts running alongside the goblin. He had a max level goblin, and an extremely bright future. He thought his life in this game would be a total paradise, just like the game's name. An old man opens the door and asks him to hide in there, and then he'll explain it to him. So he goes inside, and the old man closes the door. That's the secret, the cunning one, a level 26 warrior. He comes out of there quickly, shouting that that guy went this way, but he had said that way was the path to his funeral. As he runs, the system starts emitting various notifications for him. Lord Goblin is surprised that he is sneaky and lowers the enemy's guards for him to attack. Oh, you received a goblin point. First, he was called weak and cowardly, and now before a goblin, he's sneaky too. He knows he hasn't done anything. What makes him weak, cowardly, and sneaky? All he did was be called to a gathering group, and then got betrayed and attacked out of nowhere. He starts getting furious and tells the goblin that he's fed up with being looked down on, while everyone thinks he's just another weakling. And now, from now on, he's going to destroy the entire Everton Guild. With the help of his infinitely strong goblin, that guild keeps chasing him, cutting a path across the rooftops of the houses. Only that girl could easily handle that goblin. No need for the nickel of darkness. She can't let her guard down, and he knows that. Patam, the Annihilator, might be the weakest among them, but that goblin killed him with just a single strike. Suddenly, they stop upon hearing some terrifying screams. Then, without a sound, the cunning one falls from high above, dazed. Behind him, he hears another scream, but it's different from the previous one. It's an extremely loud laugh behind him, and he turns to try to slash the goblin, but what a wonder, it caused 0 damage. Now he realizes that at that moment, it wasn't his eyes deceiving him. That goblin is extremely strong. Oh, he's really in trouble. He knows he's going to die and the club is getting closer. He uses the cross daggers to defend against the goblin's blow. Everyone knows that kind of attack cannot be defended by daggers alone. Something defended him against the strike, and it was that woman shooting arrows. She saved his skin. She tells him to run because if he stays there, the goblin will kill him. That girl is the harbinger of death, and he thinks he's just facing a mere goblin. How can a low-rank monster like him inflict so many millions? Ah, it must be some kind of glitch for sure. He starts to activate his aura, an assassin's skill, Extreme Malice. He didn't want to use such an unpleasant skill. Extreme Malice reduced his speed by about 90%, and all attacks are now critical. The girl is confused why he's using that kind of skill against a mere goblin. It consumes a lot of mana, around 280. He says that skill is also passive, but what kind of skill consumes half of your mana? He activates the reverse grip stance, holding the sword backwards, which gives an additional 30% attack damage and decreases the critical rate by 50%. He is determined to land multiple critical hits in a row. Now she understands. Your friend is determined to end this as quickly as possible before anyone sees. Regarding her skill Gale Arrows in the end, she also doesn't want to be seen using skill combos against a mere goblin. Those Gale Arrows remove all movement speed debuffs from the character in the area. He charges forward with all speed debuffs removed and with 30% attack damage, plus an additional 20% critical. The fun is finally over. He passes by the goblin at an enormous speed, and the goblin remains frozen. And just look at the amount of damage the goblin suffered. 0. One guy in shock. How can this be? Looking at the goblin's face, the goblin is just smiling, knowing he wasn't even scratched. In extremely fast motion, all we see is him being thrown against a wall, taking infinite damage. Also, those coming nearby ask who will take down this goblin with just one hit. They better say that after they reach maximum level, right? No, the girl doesn't understand what just happened. How is this, possible? Wasn't this goblin just an ordinary monster? Well, the goblin keeps laughing, and our boy comes close and says he was the one who summoned this goblin. The girl still can't believe that Goblin can be just a mere ordinary monster. It's Rick with the power of darkness, the strongest person in the Everton Guild, and he was annihilated with a single blow. How can a goblin have such power? It's none of her business. All that matters to her now is knowing that he is extremely furious with her. Defenseless, she asks what he wants, what they did to him, but she has no idea. He makes a very suspicious face and says it's all her fault for being incredibly irresistible. But she calls him a crazy pervert. The two draw closer, and she begins to apologize. After all, that's not what she meant to say. But he points out that it was her guild that attacked first. While the girl screams and cries, he asks the goblin to go and make her stop screaming. Meanwhile, down below, some people hear the fight. Those are the same guys from before. It seems like everyone is already there. Meanwhile, the goblin is covering her mouth. Now everyone realizes that that goblin annihilated the entire Everton Guild and is about to violate that surviving woman. They might be the next ones to be assaulted. Things are not going to end well for this goblin summoner. He was trying to take revenge on the Everton Guild, but now he's in a really bad situation. He screams at the goblin to stop, to leave that woman alone, and everyone notices that this guy is yelling at the goblin even though he's dressed in beginner's gear. He is. Confronting that monster head-on, and has managed to defeat the entire Everton Guild. The goblin stops and turns to him while the woman is crying. He starts crying too, begging the goblin to stop. He continues to make a theatrical scene and says that it's over now. People down below understand that he is saying it's over for the goblin now. No one knows who this guy is, but now they are rooting for him. They want that guy to defeat that goblin and save that defenseless girl. Everyone is cheering for him. Now he doesn't understand anything at all. After all, everyone used to mock him. So if everyone is cheering for him, it means that no one knows that the goblin was summoned by him. So he decides to play the part of an actor. He jumps in front of the goblin and says he doesn't want the Everton Guild to be hurt anymore. He will take care of this goblin. He tells the goblin to let that woman go, while she is there not understanding anything. Everything is now over with this goblin. His imagination, he is now a hero, risking his life to save a woman. And he starts to laugh while hiding his face. Just look at our hero's face. But I have a feeling he leans more towards being a villain. He turns to the woman and speaks softly. If you don't want to die agonizing like your friends, you'd better cooperate. All she can do is nod. So it's settled. He starts shouting at the goblin, saying that he dared to invade this village, being a mere monster and causing suffering to all the people, and he will no longer allow atrocities from a goblin. Now he activates his ability obtained back at the beginning, the ability Walk with Goblin, and a golden chain emerges, binding that goblin as if it were a slave. He begins to drag the goblin while shouting that he will not forgive. The atrocities that this goblin caused, he jumps from there dragging the goblin. When he hits the ground, he sinks the goblin's head into the ground while everyone watches. He continues dragging that goblin. People notice that that ability to chain monsters is extremely advanced. How could someone in a starting city use that ability? But he knows that this ability is just a skill that allows him to take the goblin for a walk, and the system notifies that the goblin's mood has improved due to the outing. He starts shouting for everyone to keep their distance. After all, this monster is quite dangerous. The girl looking on now realizes why that Everton guild was completely exterminated. His level is probably above 50. This means it wasn't that the Everton guild was weak, but that no one there would stand a chance. He knows he could never defeat this goblin, but with his skill, he can take this goblin far away. So he activates the second skill, Feed the Goblin. Thus, he picks up Eig, that piece of grilled sausage, and throws it far away, saying that this will be its end. Naturally, the goblin rushes to get its food. While the goblin runs after the food, he orders the city gates to be closed now. And so, the gates are immediately completely shut with the goblin outside. Indeed, the danger has passed, and he starts to pretend to be innocent, asking if everyone is okay. People begin to applaud him, shouting that he truly managed to lure the goblin away. As he feels relieved, this resolves all the issues he had there. The girl approaches and says that everyone from the guild is dead or has been transported back to the resurrection sanctuary on sacred ground, and she is the only one who knows about his relationship with the goblin. The woman from before is alive, but she will keep her promise, and it seems that this woman will be quite useful to him. He heard that in the sacred ground of Pascal, people have infinite life, and for this reason they are safe from players and monsters. He gives her a lovely smile and says that if she doesn't keep her promise, he will kill her and then wait for her to respawn at the Resurrection Sanctuary's spawn, and kill her again and again and again in an infinite way. That's all he can promise. If she doesn't keep her promise, I think just that look was enough, and she starts to scream no, and everyone hears it. Sometime later, inside that fortress, he's lying there calmly, saying that this wasn't his intention, but as a reward for doing a good deed, he got a beautiful room. He's quite proud of himself. Should he really be? He remembers that previously, he had no power at all, and he knows that if he could, he would have saved that beautiful girl. But the reason was just that, simply because she was really hot. He almost forgot about the point he got from that Lord Goblin who fills a summoner with goblins. One point, he took that class because he felt a sense of familiarity with the goblins, and now he earns points for being called cunning. So he opens a sort of skill shop, but all the skills are locked, so he only has one choice. Then he notices a grouping feature, activating the Goblin's regroup ability. Suddenly, the goblin appears in front of him, touching nose to nose. Only now he realizes that this ability was a summoning ability. If people find out they are together, things are going to get complicated for this hero. Hearing several screams from outside, people worry about him, and a guy comes closer, knocks on the door, and asks if he's all right. He begs, for the love of God, for the goblin to stay quiet if he doesn't want to die, and also apologizes for earlier, even though he hadn't done anything. Things got really complicated, and he lies down next to his little beautiful goblin and thinks that this being is like him. He gets close to the goblin and hugs him, saying that this world is full of idiots. Then later, he goes to a bar and everyone from the guild is there. Some even recognize him as the guy who saved a guild member, Everton. That place is crowded and his goblin isn't there to protect him. The guy thanks him. After all, there was no reason for him to save them there, because he had made it clear before that he was an enemy as well. Even if that guy is thanking him, his look is very deadly, and he asks Tyrone not to be so suspicious. It's obvious that this guy is not going to fight with us while she thinks that Goblin isn't around now and everyone is being manipulated by him. Oh dear, it's like he said, the reason he gave, despite them trying to kill him, is because there's something he truly needs. It was as he thought, that guild, Everton, is now in debt to him. What does he need? Unfortunately, even though he can farm a lot in this beginner area, he can't gain more levels now, reaching his maximum of 30. He wants to get to the next zone as quickly as possible, and they indeed know how to do that. that. It means he wants to go to Fjorendel, and all he wants is someone who knows how to get there. The old man says he knows how to get there, but he's suspicious that the old man is cunning. He grabs the guy by the sleeve, and the old man starts to genuinely apologize, deducing that he dealt with that goblin alone. That guy must be really strong, maybe stronger than everyone combined. Pato puts his hand on his head, angry, but knows he can't do anything, knowing he's not stronger than anyone there. And if that guy had attacked him yesterday, he would have died with just one hit, as he promised. Well, that beginner area is known as Light, and has approximately 5 regular dungeons. The first being the grass, where slimes appear, and the second he knows quite well, the mining zone. The third is the dark forest zone. He can enter those dungeons whenever he wants, and they are open to the public, but indeed if he wants to leave that beginner zone, he needs to beat one raid dungeon. Unlike open dungeons, raid dungeons have gates that open and close from time to time, but those times are not random. They have time limits and attempts, like the final dungeon of an area. It's something he should try after leveling up several times. A guy stands up saying that the raid dungeon, it only opens once a month, and that's why they're there now. He knows the reason everyone is gathered. Yesterday was the day that dungeon opened, but that damn goblin ruined everything. Unfortunately, until the next raid, they're stuck there. He remembers making 200 million from the rewards of an 80-level monster, and knows his goblin can easily annihilate all the stronger dungeons. It seems he's going to have to stay in this city for another month, where he can no longer make money. He pulls the guy's cloak, asking if there's another way. Even though everyone is stressed about this waste of time, there's nothing he can do. He pulls the cloak back and says the debt has been paid, and now they're leaving. As they exit, the girl glances back and he continues to walk away. As he stays lost in thought, the tavern is already closing. Everyone is outside while he remains inside. The goblin was very close, hiding, watching everything with a smile. Every time we see that, "Goblin?" he's smiling. Then he gets startled and realizes something is happening in that forest. The raid boss system has opened. Everyone is receiving notifications. No way. There should be at least 30 days until the next raid. Everything they wanted just happened. The system just initiated its raid boss, and he saw that notification too, but felt scared. Indeed, the portal really opened in just one day. Everyone is there watching that open portal, but also not believing that the raid boss truly opened. A guy asks how many people are inside, and it seems that there are none. Those who are ready cleared it yesterday and moved to the next region, so that means it's just them. He comes in saying that he knew they would lie to them. He should have noticed when they said the portal would open in just a month, which means those guys betrayed him just to get into the portal, and they think he's a complete idiot. This is nothing but a misunderstanding. They would never do such a thing. The other one approaches and asks whether he is going or not, but it's clear that he is. Or is he thinking he will just watch while they get filthy rich in there? Oh well, fine then. He will explain the plan. Before they go inside, there's only one room leading to the boss room. That dungeon, in other words, they will encounter the boss as soon as they enter, so they all need to be ready. But he doesn't think it'll be dangerous, since he is lower level than them. Well, the old man is level 26, the girl level 27. It won't hurt to be careful. Ducky, the level 28 annihilator, says that dungeon boss will be a piece of cake, even without the guild leader there. This will all take less than 10 minutes. They all move toward the portal, using the battle cry, but the last one has a rather mischievous smile. As they advance toward the portal, anyone keeping their goblin hidden will have trouble dealing with them once they realize that Goblin is with him. So he decides to leave the goblin there until he calls for it. He knows any one of these guys can easily betray, but he still has an advanced healing stone that can revive him with 100 health when it reaches 0. But I thought he had already used it. Okay then? Whatever. He is the last to enter the portal. Then, on the other side, he realizes that this is a dungeon boss. He sees a level 40 iron giant chasing that team. Now he realizes that this dungeon is a hidden dungeon, the residence of the Iron Giant. The guy asks the crafty old man what he is planning this time, and this time he isn't thinking about anything. The girl tells him to run straight to the gate, but he starts smiling, thinking she's joking with him. He makes a psycho face and starts yelling that they want to run from a hidden dungeon. Everyone knows those dungeons give extraordinary rewards, but everyone also knows that this guy is level 40. Well, dying won't be the end if they get hit by that monster. He says the difference is only 10 levels. Are they really going to die in the real world? Maybe they'll cough up a bit of blood and faint. He acknowledges that getting good rewards isn't easy. While everyone else runs away, he confronts the giant head-on and declares that he will take all the rewards for himself. He activates his ugly face skill and uses the goblin summoning regroup. Meanwhile, the goblin on the other side is just enjoying the stars. He's not doing anything, and he's not feeling anything. In other words, he's standing in front of a giant shouting, while he yells for the goblin to come to him. That iron giant throws a punch right in the middle of his ugly face. That punch was pretty light, dealing only 4,879 damage. Unfortunately, Kim-Chu died. The others think this guy is a complete idiot. Did he really fight that goblin yesterday? Nobody cares what happens to this guy. The most important thing now is that only hide dungeons close quickly, and this is supposed to be a hidden dungeon, and they completely underestimated this place. A raid can also manifest in hidden dungeons, just like normal dungeons can frequently transform. Now there are 4, count 3, and the giant today is gearing up to smash everyone. Meanwhile, our boy in the real world is starting to cry. He starts shouting that he died with just 1 attack, even though he is over level 30. He knows that this monster was level 40, but still, 1 single attack. Do you remember that he had 26 attribute points and hadn't used any? Ah, it seems he forgot about that part. Well, our boy is really smart. So, anyway, I can't summon the goblin because the portal closed. He was so close that the treasure was right in front of him. Ah, that damn goblin seems like he's going to lose all of his rewards. Poor thing. The guy starts screaming the guild's name and says that the hunt is about to begin. Then our boy wakes up from the eternal sleep and the archer girl starts to use her wind arrow skill. Now, all the team members... It has double the movement speed. The old crafty one tells them to first find the monster's weakness. With this speed buff, even a strong enemy will never be able to react in time to any movement. The two leap towards that monster, and from the monster's perspective, they seem just like little mosquitoes. The monster begins to roar, and I don't know why I remembered Nazos at that moment. The Bearer of Death activated his skill, using the series of cuts. All monsters have at least one weakness, and that skill causes him to deal 16 consecutive cuts, which means there will be 32 cuts that will injure the entire body. With this, they can easily uncover that monster's weak point. After the attack halts, dust rises and the monster roars. In that attack, it did 0 damage. How is that possible? So, this means that there are only 2 possibilities. Either this guy's defense is very high, or weak attacks don't work. The monster prepares a right hook, but he easily dodges and runs along the monster's arm until he reaches its head. He delivers a blow using the skill Unbeatable Sword. Indeed, he was right. The smaller attacks don't work. Now the giant metal monster has 28,200 out of 30,000 life left, and it has started to activate its skill, Hatred for the Weak. Attacks that inflict less than 5% of the maximum life and damage will be completely nullified. It's Nuke of Darkness, the only one in that raid, a member of that team who can deal damage like that against a level 40 monster. But the old man completely disagrees. There's someone stronger who can deal more damage there, depending on the circumstances, and it is none other than Janilke, the archer bearer. She has the skill Flash, the bearer of Supreme Darkness, which uses HP to draw the bowstring. The more life she uses, the greater the damage. Well, the developers of this game are quite peculiar. One guy starts to say that if she needs time to gather energy, he will buy plenty of time for her. Then he starts to use his ability, the War Cry, which grabs the monster's attention. The monster now has a new target. His target is that guy, and he's caught his attention. Meanwhile, Kim observes that guy is drawing the monster to himself when he should be running. That's right. The monster strikes the ground with an extremely strong blow, shattering everything, and that tank manages to block it with his sword, only taking 1,038 hit points. He thought that this monster would be stronger for this plan to work. Partum cannot let his guard down. An old man pulls his hammer from his back, saying that they must not make any mistakes. The portion of damage he took was transferred to the old man because he had the activated ability of Shared Pain. It splits the damage taken with another target, and the person with more hit points takes more damage. But who knows that they don't even have enough levels in an advanced class? While the two distract the monster, the warrior assassins will completely break down the defense using their passive and first ability. Activated Assassin is the elimination of weakness. It decreases the enemy's defense by 2%, with a chance to lower it by more than 1% when attacking, and it can stack up to 5 times. That team is very strong and well organized. I even start to believe they will win. Indeed, that's how a guild works. If he doesn't get up from there, they'll end up killing the boss and he won't gain any experience, being dead, nor any reward. The monster is about to deliver another left blow to the duck, but then it stops. Our dear warrior duck doesn't know why this monster has stopped attacking, and he's looking elsewhere. It's the monster that has targeted another player. A giant slaps the guy while Kim gets up, determined not to let any more failures fight. He will help since he is the highest level player there, but everyone knows he only has 100 health points now. It's never too late for a protagonist. An iron giant has chosen Kim Chunsu as his new target. And now he began to roar and use his area damage ability, completely pulverizing that surface and all those assassins who were attacking him. Now they were dead. His plan was going well, but they didn't expect that bastard to revive right now. Why didn't this guy revive earlier? The monster's attack utterly decimated those assassins. The duck was terrified to see his fallen allies on the ground. Now, that guy was furious and determined to defeat this monster, but the old man urged him to stay calm and keep his guard up. He ran towards the monster and decided to use the warrior skill, the giant slash, from behind the monster. But before he could finish his ability, the monster turned around and struck him, dealing 3,890 damage. But that damage was not only absorbed by him, the old man received 2,456 as well. Unfortunately, his cunning plan went to waste. Duck, the Annihilator, died. Heaven, Cricket. The old cunning man died. Who screams that? None of this is his fault? All he did there was just revive. The only assassin who managed to survive was the Shadow Bearer. He knows that monsters prioritize healers and ranged attackers over tanks. The monster only went for the tank duck because he used the provoke skill. When that player revived, the monster stopped focusing on the tank and targeted the assassins. Unfortunately, they didn't even have a chance to react. Even the tanks couldn't do anything. Well, now there are only 2 left. What are they going to do? Is she going to shoot now? And she saw that the bearer of death only had 46 health left. An assassin urged her to control herself. Shooting now would only ruin the plan. They hadn't managed to fully stack the assassin's passive. They only stacked 3 points. That won't be enough to kill this monster in one shot. All he was going to do is stack the rest. He charges in, telling her not to cancel her ability, no matter what happens. If it's not a single attack from her, they won't have a chance to win. So she does it. She keeps accumulating more power, but staying in that position takes a lot of effort from her. While he wonders if he can really do anything to help, she looks at him and tells him to be quiet. He can't do anything without his little goblin and adds that he's nothing but a mere nuisance. Now, he is shocked by her statement. Why is she looking at him like that? Is it because he doesn't have his goblin? But he has several traumas from his life. People always said it was all his fault anyway, but he knows that because of them, he can't bring his goblin. Now he starts shifting the blame onto them, and they are the real culprits. But despite this guy being very weak, she is treating him as if there's no other option but to turn to him. Is that right? Then he has a plan. He's going to let them suffer to death one by one. As he thinks about his beautiful plan, the Iron Giant now focuses on the bearer of death as his target. Everything is going just as that assassin thought. He will prioritize long-range damage, but his opponent there is him and not that girl, and charges at the giant. It's a super risky move. He activates the Blade Fury skill and strikes right at the goblin's neck, dealing 1,920 damage. But the giant keeps roaring. That hit was nothing to him. But the sequence of attacks is not over yet. He gains momentum off the wall and jumps, thinking this is how you focus, and uses the Twin Blade Fury ability again, inflicting 1,908 damage. Now, he gains momentum off the ceiling and deals another 1,912 damage, shouting that the other way to shift focus is simply to deal as much damage as possible. Now he realizes that after 3 critical hits, he will consider him a threat. The Iron Giant has now selected Helen Nuke of the Shadows as his target. That giant now has 22,460 health points. Even though the weak point only has 3 stacks, that attack should have worked. All that guy wants to do now is buy time for that archer. He activates his quick evasion skill, and for the next 3 seconds, dodges all physical attacks. And when he says that his next 3 seconds will be his, a system informs him that he does not have enough mana to activate that skill. That was the perfect opportunity for that giant to act. So he punches that assassin, sending him flying away. And those watching the assassin, who gathered that he died under their feet, start screaming that they are just stupid, overly confident, and that he should have just stayed dead, shouldn't have bothered to revive the girl with the bow. He thinks he's not serious because she's stuck there, holding that bow. He was the one responsible for reviving and ruining everything. Then this girl is saying that those idiots would have defeated him if he hadn't revived, but obviously yes, in just 10 seconds, that monster would have been on the ground easily. He wished that everyone had died, rather than seeing them earn a reward without him. As they listen, the monster charges forward, and all they can do now is scream. He charges and focuses on the woman as the target. She says now is not the time to point fingers at anyone. Unfortunately, she didn't fully charge her weapon, and that's going to be the only chance. As she prepares to shoot, he is fiddling with his system, and she asks what this guy is doing, but he smiles and asks a question. Looks like you can't move while charging, can you? Oh man, her mind isn't clear, and she's thinking that this guy is going to do something shady with her and begs him not to come any closer. But then he grabs her and puts her on his back, starting to run, saying that she said she needs another 10 seconds. He managed to dodge that giant's attack. The girl can't believe how this guy can be as fast as Nick of the Shadows. Those 26 attribute points he had before, he spent all on agility. In the end, even an assassin couldn't invest all his points in agility. He's not an assassin, but his speed can be compared to 1. And their current discussion earned him a Goblin point, and you know he only earns that when he does something subhuman. He understands that damn Lord Goblin is trying to say he's wrong in this discussion. That skill is finally fully charged, and now it's just about shooting. While he's running, he commands to shoot, but it seems aiming at this speed isn't easy, and if he misses, it's over. As she aims, he says he wants everything he spent back, with 100 times interest. This is all for the blood he lost, and for the advanced healing stone. That guy's speed is enormous, and he circles the monster extremely fast, making a whirlwind. The monster tries to find him but fails. It starts smashing everything around to see if it can catch him, but with no success. Then he jumps on the giant's back, and the woman uses her archer skill, a death arrow. But now that fight ends there. The giant is unwilling to lose and activates his ability, World Demolition, striking the ground with great force, starting to demolish everything and throwing rocks everywhere. Now he realizes this giant had been hiding this ability all along, and this attack covers all directions. The girl with the bow has only 1% of health left, and since he revived earlier, he only has 100 health as well. In other words, if they get even scratched, they will die. She keeps trying to aim, but there are too many debris around. At this rate, she won't be able to hit. He begins to say that his mind is showing him something. She thinks it might be a solution, but it's not. It's not just memories. And when he was playing with his friends, it seems that his life is flashing before his eyes. Then, a being starts to materialize, with huge green fingers and claws appearing. And it's nothing more, nothing less than our goblin friend with nearly infinite damage. There he goes, shouting about how long it took for this guy to show up. It's been almost a month since he yelled to regroup and this guy hasn't appeared. While the girl tries to comprehend what she's witnessing, it seems that monster inflicted damage on the dungeon space to manage to enter. Is that even possible? A secret blow. And there he is, the goblin, acting as a shield, stopping some of the rubble. That was about to hit them and taking 0 damage from it. The monster roars, determined to send them to their graves, while he stands there smiling. The final words of a dungeon boss are beautiful and loud. He starts smiling, saying it's now. Before, I couldn't understand why this guy was smiling since that woman mounted him. Now I realize it's because of those thick thighs squishing his head, no doubt. And the arrival is the time for the grand finale. The girl lands the arrow, dealing 22,524 damage. The shock of the power was immense, but it hit a shot to the chest of the creature, piercing through and leaving just a hole. All that remained was a standing body, which quickly fell. Congratulations! You have defeated the hidden dungeon, the camera of the Iron Giant, but she still can't believe how they managed to win that dungeon. And she even leveled up, from 27 to 31. He left her on the ground and jumped away, also leveling up from 31 to 34, and all he wants now is to get his hands on the rewards immediately. After defeating the boss, everyone involved in the raid is revived. It seems like everyone is fine, but the tank still tastes blood in his mouth. If this monster's level were higher, they would be in great danger, but the sly one isn't doing well. This always happens to him. Just a little tap and he returns to normal, just like those old tube TVs at home. Well, now that everyone is okay, they can explain what really happened, but the guy is there, putting his hand on his rewards, speaking so that no one comes closer. Why is this guy acting like this out of nowhere? The girl said that since they completed the mission, he leveled up. As he was touching that reward, a system message said she hadn't fulfilled the condition for the hidden class. It seems that everything she did wasn't enough. He thinks that just as they fulfilled the advancement condition by gaining the goblin's favor, they might not advance unless they clear certain conditions within that hidden dungeon. After they complete the conditions, they can advance without defeating the boss. And besides, deliberately defeating the boss to obtain the hidden class seems to be the most natural order of things. But he's quite curious about what that class is. But it doesn't make sense to think about it now, does it? And now all he needs to do is grab the reward that was left. As he does this, people are revived. The girl starts reminding him that they both killed the monster, but everyone fought together. And it's obvious that the right thing to do is distribute the rewards. But distribute something there? This crazy woman thinks that I'm going to share these rewards? Get out of here. This is all mine. He smooths out his reward and starts calling it his precious. It's too precious to share. Now has it turned into the Lord of the Rings? The guy tells him to keep his reward because this is already the second time he helped today. But the old man comes over and activates his cunning ability, saying he told them they had to kill this guy. He starts shouting, telling everyone to screw themselves, and says he knew they would all do that, would betray him twice. But if they wanted to defeat him, it wouldn't be a problem at all. Now all that's there are 3 crumpled iron bars, 1 pure iron bar, and a single item, the great bow of the Iron Giant. But he's not even an archer. What is he going to do with those things? He knows that too, so he thinks he can't sell these unique items, nor can he use them if they're tied to a specific class. But even so, this guy still wants that bow because he thinks everyone has one. The assassin tells him to stop being so graceful and give that bow to the girl. He smiles thinking he'll give her the bow, but in exchange he'll want something quite precious as well, if you know what I mean. That's a type of item that can't be traded, meaning it has no price, and if he claims that item, they won't have any way out, except to buy it from him. Wow, this guy is so greedy. The reason he's held on this long was to sell that item. He looks at the face of that guy smiling and realizes that his face looks like that of the Goblin, while our little Goblin monster is hiding because they are now on a team. So, fine. Problem solved. The girl takes the bow, and it seems to be way too heavy. Now she possesses the giant iron bow, non-transferable only to archers. While our boy thanks for the trade, the assassin said he has an innate talent for being hated. But where is this guy going after that? But it's not obvious. He's going to a place that doesn't have strong people like them. The Everton Guild decides to leave, and man, even after everything this girl went through at this guy's hands, she looks back at him with a charming smile. So, it's done. Chuzu completed the Bosakota radio. Even though he lost that unique bow, he gained something much better, a consumable item, thief gloves, that can steal anything, but only once. And he can even take from a person who has higher levels than him. Unfortunately, they can't be used against another player, and he picks up a piece of raw iron, thinking that not long ago he was just a mere miner and knows everything about ore, and these idiots are so focused on the unique item that they didn't even notice the real value of this thing. That's all he needed. 3 crushed irons and 1 pure iron. These guys have betrayed him twice. Now they'll see. It's in Fiorendel at the Phoenix Bazaar, a place that had plenty of players, all very well equipped and apparently ragged. He can smell money from far away in that city, but first of all, he really needs to pay off his debt and then change his equipment because he died with just a single hit while fighting that monster, 9 levels lower than him. But he knows he was wearing a crappy armor that required only level 3 to be used and gave him a total of -1 defense. It was better to throw it away. Can you imagine wearing armor that decreases your defense? While he's thinking, the Goblin starts tugging at him, but he tells the Goblin not to cause any more trouble. Well, speaking of trouble, look at the size of that cat. A huge monster. How does a boss monster walk around this place? But on top of that cat, there's a girl with blue hair saying she's never seen anyone summon goblins before. She's Irene, a level 76 summoner. She asks if that monster is one summoned by him. If there's a person riding it, that means this monster is nothing but a summon. Also, she tells him not to be afraid because that monster is very gentle, and its name is Michelle or her. But looking at that cat's face, I think he should be afraid because it's drooling. He knows that girl is very strong and he doesn't even need to fight her to know that. Trust me. Level 76 is pretty weak, including the Everton Guild. Most guilds don't stand a chance against her. She strokes her cat while asking its name. He introduces himself as Kim Shuzu, but she asked for the Goblin's name. Hasn't he been able to give a name to his creature yet? But who cares about monster names? And that girl even called a goblin cute. If he keeps treating his creature this way, he won't get attached to it. She asks him to look at his summon. It has taken an aggressive stance for its master, who didn't even give it a mere name. Only after hearing, "Protect me," she says she's leaving, and that next time she hopes he has already named his goblin. He thanks her for the advice and apologizes for not thinking about it yet. This guy keeps thinking that he needs to give a name to a goblin, and they have no problem with that. After a while, he is in an equipment store. The guy is evaluating his gear, and as he assesses it, he says everything is crap, nothing more than junk. He says using a trash bag would be better. That's the NPC Dirty Mouth. But that's why he went to buy another one, a better one. He offers a hard iron breastplate for a price of $350 in dollars, which means it's around $40. He knows he has a strong summon, but if anyone even brushes against him in his current state, he will die. So he needs to invest heavily in defense. He decides to buy it. Dirty Mouth says he recognizes good gear and that one was made with the highest quality iron possible, and that he didn't make it for fools like him to use. Wow, the name suits that seller perfectly, Dirty Mouth. Our boy puts on the armor and realizes he can't move. Dirty Mouth says that exactly people like him are better off standing still. Our boy's strength is 4. The armor seems way too heavy for him, as you need at least 24 strength to wear it. And as everyone knows, he invested everything in agility, but he bought it before trying it on. The guy asks if he wants to sell it back. He re-evaluates, saying he will pay about 30, but he had just sold it for 350. He's getting scammed by a mere NPC. Then the NPC Dirty Mouth has an idea. He asks him to wait and starts looking for his hammer. Without the hammer, he can't forge anything, but that table over, there is full of hammers of various sizes and weights. He picks up a hammer and says that his hammer is in the dungeon of the underground canal, which is at the entrance of the village, and asks him to go get it and bring it to him. Well, that activates a quest. Hamlet's problem: find the hammer forged by Hamlet. Reward: allows him to process materials to create armor. Yeah, so indeed that's a quest. That's why the boss or cult material items were so expensive in his mind. Now everything makes sense. If he can process those items, he will get new extraordinary items. That guy means his hammer is in the underground channel, doesn't he? And he decided to accept that mission, unlike the other times. This time, he doesn't have to worry about anyone else in the group. In other words, he will complete this mission pretty quickly, probably in less than half an hour. While he's thinking, he hears a scream. The dirty mouth shouts for him to grab the hammer now, and if the mission fails, he will die. Oh boy, I don't think he's going alone. A mission on the line of his own life, trusting a guy who can't even hold armor. He's going along, no doubt. The system revealed the condition of the search. There's something strange in the air. Man, Jumply seemed really irritated. If that fool died, the mission would go south, and without thinking, our hero got upset, wondering what was going on with this chase. Inside, he was at an impasse. Dying would be a disaster, and he still had to drag that. Limp, level 13. The mission was only getting complicated and this thing was unexpected. Suddenly, the guy started shouting, asking what the protagonist was looking at. He couldn't waste any more time with unnecessary worries. Let me sort out my problems. The poor guy frowned immediately, wondering how he got into this mess. How did I think I would do this? He invested all his points in agility and now had to run, but not from the monsters. He was heading straight for the boss and did so without hesitation. He started running, calculating at lightning speed. After all, he already knew how this escort mission worked. He thought of using this to get rid of that fool at the entrance. Suddenly, a notification popped up. Jumply was being attacked. Yeah, his plan went down the drain. Poor thing, he was paralyzed, as if they had frozen him. Jumply was surrounded by monsters, zombies, and slimes. He growled that he was big and who dared. The protagonist then quickly shouted, calling his Goblin, who appeared running like a hurricane. He yelled with his stick, flew and hit Jumply in the face, causing chaos among the monsters. And all those monsters were quickly destroyed. The Goblin let out a sinister chuckle as we saw the remains of monsters scattered on the ground, where Ample, full of himself, said, "As expected, right? Nothing can stand against him." Shoreskin of Juzu said something was approaching, right? They are really going to be in danger. He turned around with a look that said, "Wow, now we're in danger." Then he pulled out his hammer and charged forward. Ingsuzo was super frustrated. He wanted to put an end to that guy. How annoying, how infuriating. Running without the slightest caution, he then weighed his options. And perhaps the best option would be to let the Goblin handle this and go straight to the boss. That was a good idea. To stay away from the Goblin and the monsters, the entire path only had that single way. He quickly called his Goblin to change the plans. Now they would face the whole order of monsters. Just push forward. It was then that he encountered hordes of rats, monsters blocking the way. These rats dared to steal Rampling's hammer at the bazaar. Now they would see. Ingsuzum had to annihilate them all. Then he let out a shout, saying he would now show his secret technique. Goblin 99 charged in. He was massacring the rats with devastating strength. Jumply threw the hammer with all his might and felt a bit dizzy from the effort, shouting like a madman. It had been ages since he had gone all out like that. As we watched the Goblin, he crossed the ride with that strike. The poor guy shouted it was time, but it was going to take longer than he thought. Well, but this plan is much safer. That old rascal wouldn't go down easily. Realizing how ridiculous Engsugo was, he mocked him right away. He responded that he wasn't joking. Before being a blacksmith, Jump was a well-respected warrior, a level 13 con artist NPC who had the skill Roar, which would shake the monsters when activated. Jumpy shouted at Satan, the disgusting ones that shook everything around, and he said that his roar could even awaken ancient souls. Then several skeletons appeared in front of him, along with a level 35 skeletal king. And several other level 31 to 33 skeletons were already ready to fight. Then he got what he wanted. Now, he had awakened all the monsters in that place. They could have been taken down quickly, but that idiot woke everyone up. Now, he just had to solve this as quickly as possible. Our protagonist was very angry with him. That was the last time he accepted this nonsense. The Goblin spun a stone with his finger and then crushed it, screaming "Kuya" and hurled it at the enemy. If he did it again, someone would get hurt. 3 hours later, it was a different story. The Zoom was completely helpless. The old man just knew how to mess everything up. Facing that old man was more like pulling a hidden mission on Warndangel. The system announced that Jumply was still alive. Someone filling a level 34 Goblin Summoner's Zoom increased to level 37, and suddenly, Shuzo leaned against the wall and heard a noise. What was that noise? The jumper started yelling for them to get out of there, that it was a trap. Then, suddenly, a flash illuminated everything. 3 arrows were fired. Shushu, terrified, clung to the goblin. Luckily, the goblin blocked the arrows. Gerudo pulled the trigger that armed the trap, and the response was instantaneous. Jumple had stepped on a mechanism, and an arrow hit his chest, causing his health to plummet drastically. Dimple, now cursing, started to insult all the minions of that level 33 skeleton. Then, the vein on Kilson's forehead bulged immediately. The system notified that Dimple was poisoned. His health was dropping from 180 to 20, then it dropped to 0, and Jumple died. Unfortunately, the scene cuts to the next act. Kilson went crazy, shouting that he would get revenge. He was going to kill the hammer monster again, even though Jumple was already at the foot of the stone. His shouts drew attention. He was watching everything from above. "Finally, I found you. Here." Shuzo stopped at the forge, calling Rumple. Rumple, somewhat startled, asked what was going on with his team. Seeing Shuzu, Gabu made some noises. "What kind of trash is this?" Shuzu smiled like, "No, those are your last words." Jumply replied that it was firm, thanking him for his hammer. Curson was in shock. After all, this is a good thing. Then, the system pop-up showed that the mission was a complete success. Hamley began to shout that he got his hammer and also a lot of materials to make new equipment. Muchero said that the hammer had finally arrived. Jumply was so happy that he even started to joke, but he didn't notice when the zombies appeared. Uncle Zoo felt offended by that guy's question, and the foul-mouthed one raised his tone immediately, saying he needed to tell him something and that he was worthless. Got it? A foul mouth. Then, he turned to the campfire, which was burning brightly, heating the flames, and began to talk a lot of nonsense. The quality of the equipment depending on the blacksmith's sweat. He was hitting the pure steel with all he had, fuming, with a stern expression. The best materials are reborn in the hands of the best blacksmiths. Oh boy. He let out a sigh of satisfaction and said, "That was pure luxury." Who? Shushu was watching, saying there wasn't a drop of sweat there. It seems his experiment was a complete failure. The foul-mouthed one complained that's why it was like that, but Kim equipped it and was shocked. This was real, made of rare materials hidden in the caves of the secret boss. This was the first rare armor. Everyone went crazy. The Yun system detected the blue steel armor of level 36 with 24 resistance. It is capable of triggering a collapse when taking damage. Hamlet became serious, not charging this time, while telling our hero not to think too much. After all, it's a buzzkill. He was going to do that anyway. The system then chimed. PK mode activated. Juzu felt a murderous intent, instinctively dodged a back attack and shouted, "Why are you attacking me?" The guy was surprised he managed to dodge that. Attack. You almost killed him. His skill increased, dude. But that was it. He remembered well. Curson shouted, "At the moment that, Papa, is this it? Who is she?" Gil made a face pretending not to understand. The last person he teamed up with was Kim Chuzo, and you act as if you don't know Katarina. Monty threw another punch, and Kim continued to struggle. If Katarina was in panic, there was a mage by that name in the mines. Wait, she couldn't believe it. She was the victim who betrayed him, that serpent. She who mocked him, man, and she's living life peacefully, acting as if her mind was in a downward spiral. But it seems the trauma is real. He knew he had gone too far, but was it all his fault? He shouted no. The blame was on Reger. He absolved himself of any responsibility. Gil cut to the chase. "No, that wasn't your decision because of her state. The air is the same, Yang, and the position of the corporation is also a complete mess." So the guy hit Chuzo, but the blow was in vain. After all, he kept smiling. Now the conversation must start from the beginning. The president's daughter is in bad shape. Expensive phones, semiconductors, and more. It wasn't just any set of companies, but one of the largest in the South. And to succeed, you just had to be hired. But the president's daughter was there, unconscious in the hospital. So when Gil found out, he shouted, "Wait, you mean she was attacked by an 80-level monster? That must have been a huge shock for her. And apparently with that, she won't wake up." Ju looked confused. But how did he get out of there? Because he was level 3, right? And she was almost level 40, and she didn't even survive. Everyone fell silent, and that made no sense. My words quickly reached Shuzu. He started stuttering as he said he changed classes purely by luck, but she knew that it was she who should have gotten that class. Deep down, Chuzu breathed and said it was a joke. The best doctors working 24 hours a day, and still, this was the result? Imagine if he were in their place, a long wait in the SUS. I wasn't going to do anything. Angio was still looking on suspiciously. The level 3 player switched to the hidden class and came out of there alive. From what she heard, hidden classes aren't an invincibility trick. Our boy scratched his head and changed the subject, asking what her chances of waking up were, and it seems the chances are quite low. Gil cast a serious look while saying she was still alive, just unconscious. The doctors did everything they could, but the answer was always the same. No one knows why she doesn't wake up, and they have nothing more to do. Chuzo then, basically the only thing that can be done is to wait for her to come back. A half-crazy idea popped into his head, but he decided to share it. Maybe they could use the same thing that caused her condition to try to help. Everyone became curious. He started to explain that he once read in a foreign article about someone who had a collapse, someone forcibly disconnected from a virtual reality game. He lost consciousness in the real world while his whole family had already lost hope. But then, something happened, and apparently he came back to himself in the game, at the gates of heaven. That's what he said. He took a small dramatic pause and said that the odds were extremely low, like 1 in 10 million. Was this guy giving false hopes to everyone who had nothing to cling to? After all, he had already fooled everyone once. He held her hand while Gil remained impressively calm, but instead of standing still, he was counting seconds, waiting for her to wake up on her own. But the tension was almost palpable in the air. Gil stood there, staring at her as if he were entranced. He analyzed every movement of her face, trying to decipher what was going on. Her gaze only left the protagonist's stomach in shambles, extremely nervous. It was just the change in her face, but it felt like a significant event. Katarina remained paralyzed as if time had stopped, her expression beautiful yet completely empty. Poor thing. And he didn't know what to do inside. Our hero knight was thinking that he couldn't believe this. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't believe what he was seeing. It was hard to believe that the president had let this happen. He didn't want to understand how they let her get back into the game. For a moment, he felt a pang of worry. He was concerned. What if they found out that he lied? What would a corporation as big as theirs do to him? Bye-bye to him, kid. He imagined being wiped off the face of the earth, and no one ever knowing about it. As he distracted himself by circling around Katarina, he whispered softly that the hope of her regaining consciousness was still alive within him. Even so, the guy tried to calm himself down a little, but deep down, he knew that if he didn't take the risk, it wouldn't make a difference. At the very least, he wanted to be the guy who tried to save her, and maybe that would be enough for such a big company. After everyone else had given up, he was still there. He kept, wondering if they would indeed ignore someone who had tried so hard, and if by some miracle she actually woke up. Indeed, it would be quite a stroke of luck, but what if it didn't happen? The Goblin seemed to agree with him, like a magic trick and crazy logic. Then our boy reached out and touched Katarina's chin, calculating everything as if he were in a game. He was going to pretend that he was doing all this for her, do it for a while just to see what happened, then go back and tell everything, preparing for the worst. Because suddenly, he started laughing at himself. My god damn, he was a genius. Alright, now he had to find a way to take her with him. He looked at Katarina, who was still paralyzed, poor thing. She couldn't even move on her own. He thought a lot about this and had a brilliant idea. Soon, he was pleased to see that Katarina started to move, and she was being dragged behind him, calmly looking in the direction they were going. Apparently, in the system, by pulling her, she followed, and it worked. But as he walked, he started to feel something very strange, as if he had multiple gazes fixed on him. Wait a minute, what is this? Everyone was looking at him, and the situation there was anything but calm, but the Goblin was having a blast, and that didn't seem good at all. He tried to explain himself, but the situation kept getting more complicated. He got really nervous and said that it wasn't what it looked like. Was it not? He knew her, you know? But the woman next to him let out an, okay, and that's how you treat someone you know? Ah, he was frozen, dazed. What? No, wait, he was cornered, poor guy. In that situation, again, it was as if the pressure had increased. He didn't know how to get out of this embarrassment. Soon enough, someone called him, asking him to go that way. He turned and saw an older man with a white beard. His face looked extremely familiar. He then asked who he was, and the man said there wasn't time to explain, telling him to walk fast. No beating around the bush. Just follow me. This guy was straight to the point. They both entered a dead-end alley and he continued watching the man. Now, he didn't expect to encounter this guy again, but the man quickly corrected him, calling him a shameless scoundrel. Now that he looked closer, everything was making sense. That goblin was indeed the creation of Ken Chuzo, that's right. And that was how he got out alive from that mess. But don't think I trust you even a little bit. Now, is this guy scheming this time? Mr. Greel played dumb, saying that last time everything went wrong. Only we teamed up to defeat the boss. The blame is on us. He didn't usually move like that, which made Kim feel more at ease, but our goblin stayed silent beside him, making some noises like blah 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 and changing the subject. Is this guy one of those who collects information, or is he a spy? This guy wasn't really clued into this area. Sungriel placed a finger on his lips, asking for silence. If he wants to know about Forendel, we first need to go to a safer place. Then they went on to a very strange path that felt a bit familiar to Krincha Umzu. And suddenly the system sounded an alert. PK mode activated without warning. The blue guy came down hard with some punches on Sungriel. The guy's head looked swollen, with a pig's snout from the hits. Sungriel said he didn't know everything about the Fundel, but even so, he was well informed. And there, the boss called once a month, just like it happened with the Reverend. They only show up when some specific condition happens. Now he was much more confused, but it's serious. Why is this guy so obsessed with dungeons? It's like he loses his mind as soon as there's a delay. Anyone who makes up an excuse right away is obviously in it for the money. The harder the dungeon, the bigger the rewards. So, Sungriel's tone turned serious, even though he was desperate to raid. But come on, everything has its time, and he just arrived in Florendel. Look at the size of this city. He's grateful to be there. After all, they are on their feet. Albert's is the true capital. He should start first, with the game's main quest line. For this reason, stronger players pass through there. When he said that, Quincho's zoom eyes sparkled immediately. Wait, you're right. Besides the main quest, if he focuses on completing the main missions, he will automatically access higher areas and levels. How did he not think of this before? Only now did he conclude that he was stupid. Wow, now I'm excited. Then he turned to the goblin, and they both set off with renewed strength. But suddenly, Sean noticed something was out of place. In the goblin's hand, he immediately detected that something was missing and stopped right away. Then, terrified and wide-eyed, wait, where is she? Where's that girl? Ah, the guy had stolen the girl, but he knew she wasn't too far away. Two crazy guys were in front of Katarina. The bigger one looked at her in a very contemptuous way. One of them smiled somewhat maliciously. Hey, look at her gear. All top-notch, all premium. The big guy licked his lips while saying that she went to the bathroom and left her character behind. Online, one of them talked with a rather sly smile that he should call security to protect her. Now that wouldn't make you feel better, would it? At that moment, Ju was running like a madman, his heart racing, panic taking over his entire body. That girl was unconscious and an easy target, and if anything happened to her, she might genuinely die this time. A call came in for Gio, and he was very serious. The young woman is still alive, safe. The one who started to laugh discreetly and boldly lied, said she was. Gil insisted he show his face, but Zunzum responded immediately, trying to send the money first. Then he composed himself and quickly corrected, wait, I mean we are both in the middle of something important right now, Gil. For you to be this out of breath? Ah, damn. He just said he was busy. Fine. And then he would show him everything. But Ju insisted that he show it, so he quickly hung up the call. Ju stared at the disconnected message, somewhat lost, but he whispered, very quietly, never mind. His calm expression already indicated that he didn't believe anything serious had happened. He lowered his head slightly and said he was very sorry for the confusion. It was the president. The guy next to him was Ryumadori, a level 76 knight, but in the real world, he was Agimu, the president of the Samium Corporation. Kimun looked at Gil. Do you know who Katarina is? The truth is that she is Samuel's heir. Do you really think someone like him could do anything against her? Gil frowned and asked, then why trust him to a guy like that? If there's even a chance that someone could help through the game, wouldn't it make sense to have her under our protection? And one let out a sigh. Oh dear G. A tired one said everyone knew it was pointless, even if the chance of her dying was small. What would change? She was born into the Sim family. Her whole life had already been decided. The only thing that she decided for herself was to enter through the gate of heaven, and this world stopped. Her voice became soft. It was her escape, the only place where she could be free. So, if it were to happen, wouldn't it be better for her last sight to be this world and not the hospital ceiling? At that moment, Chu was racing through the city at 1,000 miles an hour, breathless. What kind of game simulates being out of breath? Seriously, he groaned in anger. How am I supposed to find her in such a big city? Suddenly, a thought came to him. Wait a second, he hasn't done anything concrete yet, has he? He got a goblin point, quite curious as well. He quickly opened his system. A skill had just been unlocked. A new Goblin skill was now available in the skill shop. X1's eyes sparkled right away. Let's see what sharing skill we have now. But he had to wait a bit. The Goblin, after all, was going to sacrifice some player points to recover the summoned Goblin. He should hold on tight, but should he really return energy to a Goblin that doesn't even lose health? So he moved on to the next Goblin skill, Goblin Throw. In other words, he could throw the Goblin in whatever direction he wanted. X1 pondered, throw a Goblin? Ah, a mischievous smile appeared on his face. This might be quite useful. He activated the summoning right away, grabbed it by the head, and activated the whip skill. They flew like a cannon projectile. He scanned the area from above and then pointed to a corner in the village, shouting, but suddenly he couldn't hold back his laughter. Katarina! He ran in that direction. Haha, Katarina, from now on I'll be after you. We will be together forever, my love. I love you. But when he got there, she was standing still, and beside her were two brutes. One was a level 44 aspiring swordsman, and the other was nothing more than a muscle-bound bully, a level 46 fighter. One of them said, "Who is that ugly guy from before?" The other even laughed. The swordsman smiled too, and they began to talk about how they were there to make that girl happy, and an ugly guy like him doesn't deserve her. Suzume said, "Oh, really? You think I brought her here to understand who you are, you bastard? But they say they are just two charming heroes who like to save damsels in distress." Choo-Choo called them a couple of bullshitters and said that those two are the reason she's in danger right now. One of them started smiling a lot and said it was time to die, "You ugly bastard." The other spat and charged at Kim, but before he could get closer, the Goblin jumped around asking for calm like a madman. A second passed and the two aspiring heroes were stunned, not knowing what to do. They were sprawled on the ground and Chelson couldn't help but laugh. He was having fun showing how stupid the guys were. It must have been a weird feeling to lose to a weird guy and be the subject of ridicule. What a pity. However, meanwhile, a guard in the background began to notice the commotion. He leaned in, questioning what that noise was, and started moving closer to the ruckus. Back at the alley scene, Charles was talking like crazy, tying a rope around Katarina's neck, but suddenly he froze. His smile quickly vanished. He looked ahead and thought, "Oh shit, a guard!" He approached brandishing a weapon and shouting. He accused Hu and his friend of murder and kidnapping. That's it. This was not good at all. He made it clear that Gelson was going to be in trouble, but our protagonist raised his hands and, already in despair, thought that if an NPC guard caught him, jail would be his home for a long time. He thought he would lose his precious hours of freedom and needed to act quickly. Zoom, the clever one, appeared out of nowhere, casually walked by and put an arm around Keen's. Zoom, all smiles, started saying he was looking for her. Then Griu leaned in and whispered that now was not the time to kill guards. And after all, this commotion was going to cause real chaos and mark him forever. All the guards could show up. If he didn't want to see hell, he should cooperate with heaven. He shouted immediately. He seemed to have a plan. Griu ensured that he would take care of the rest. He approached the guard in a friendly manner and spoke in an extremely calm way, asking if the guard had a long day. The guard eyed him suspiciously and asked if he was with them and what they were hiding. At that moment, an unexpected message from the system appeared. The option to create a light discharge had already been unlocked. This could increase favorability. He circled around the guard, discreetly passing a bag to him, telling him to take it and pretend he saw nothing. A bribe. He looked quite curious, his expression extremely twisted and bold, and called him a corrupt story. Favorability dropped immediately. He was stunned, poor guy, and stopped blinking rapidly. What was he thinking? He saw Zumbriu being dragged away and let them take him instead of waiting. He could even be a nice guy. The scene then cuts to Hu. He was standing in front of a colossal castle, shouting at a guard at the entrance because this guy wouldn't let him in. He was pretty irritated. This was where things happened. At the mission center of the capital, a young man in a yellow robe said he wasn't going to waste his time. The door wasn't opening for him. Shum turned to him, wanting to know who this guy was. "The sharpshooter is me," and introduced himself as God. An exclamation point floated above his head, a search marker. The crazy guy was a mission giver. God stroked his beard, saying that the first thing he did upon arrival was to make a scene. If he was a newbie, he should know. He was paralyzed, confused. His eyes were white, looking empty. The guy laughed, enjoying his expression. It was the expression of a true adventurer. He decided that he would be chosen and that he would deal with his quest, the lost ruins. Without thinking twice, he accepted the mission and said he would take him inside the castle. Then, the main mission began. And he needed to retrieve the Golem core from the lost ruins, proving his worth. The Golem core was worth 0. First reward, 250 coins. When Kim entered, he realized he had been greatly deceived. Damn, he should have warned me. That was the kind of damage he wanted to avoid. He began to complain about the lost ruins. What he lost there was the lives of the poor souls, the fools who came before him. He assessed his chances. Dodging the traps was extremely easy, but this time, he wasn't alone. He needed to protect someone. He whispered that he didn't like her, but unfortunately, he couldn't let her get hurt. He turned to the goblin and told him to hold the leash. Poor thing. Taking a deep breath, he quickly released and shouted, running and jumping over the traps and pressure plates he encountered. He reached the other side and shouted to the goblin, activating his summoning ability. The goblin landed in front of him, shouting, "Quiet!" but holding the leash. Catherine was still on the other side. The leash was taut. Catherine almost fell, poor girl. "Oh my god, she's not going to fall, is she?" Kilson shouted to get the goblin out of the way. He responded with another shout and yanked hard on Catherine's leash. She flew like a rag doll, poor thing. Our boy was horrified by what he was doing and covered his face with his hands, but he could still see through his fingers. Wow, now panic has taken over this guy. "Oh, Catherine, hang in there." That girl couldn't die there, not because of him. He begged her to hold on tight. The scene shifts to Agman loosening his tie. He grabbed a baton and started shouting that he was being held back because of his friends. Friends in his age group are temporary, you know? He had warned before. He shot a disdainful look at the girl and questioned whether he had really chosen this path, to live like one of those pitiful girls. Catherine threw herself to the ground and with her hands together apologized, and promised she wouldn't do it again. She begged for help to get her out. Annie seemed paralyzed, powerless. She is Katarina's mother, and she was in panic, shouting for her mother. Mon attacked again. This guy was very cold and targeted just one stain. The hand insisted again for her to come back crying. Katarina asked the goblin what they were going to do now. The goblin smiled and shouted Charles's name. He closed his eyes. After all, no one would ever come close to girls like them unless they did something. He thought about resurrection, paused, and reflected. This is just a little game, but it wasn't real. Oh dear. A loud sigh. The situation had been impossible from the start. In a Rhino Perante outing, she was in danger. The Good Samaritan law might not be an indecent action, just helping. He leaned in again and hesitated to provide help, when suddenly, Rico interrupted, saying the lady was waiting. What madness, man? Chelsea looked on and asked what was happening. He saw Shell's wrinkled lips. A son of a bitch. Dodged, but seemed terrified. He shouted that he would kill them later, but Kim started to stutter. It was all right. It was just that she was not dead. The medical team was keeping an eye on her, monitoring the vital signs, and updates were constant. It had been rare, but it enabled the defense. Everything was within the norms. The armor was fine gear, and Jell said that if it wasn't in a dungeon, it wouldn't last. So it was quite possible that she possessed extraordinary skills. But if she was a ninja or stealthy, that was it. She probably wasn't going to die. Poor guy, he sighed in relief. So she wasn't dead. The reason for checking was to ensure no strand of her hair touched his body. He demanded, wanting to see her. Kim then ended the call and he stared at the screen, completely dazed. But what is this? He was extremely angry. At the cave door, Kim shouted, "Listen to me, Goblin. This is going to work now." And they sprinted to the boss's room, running through the dungeon. Soon they came across a huge rolling stone, and he started shouting for the goblin to dodge it. He grabbed Katarina and used her as a human sled. Then a broken bridge appeared. The goblin crossed it as if he were a hook for the protagonist, using a taut rope, a balance beam, and proceeded with extreme caution. A massive stone goblin finally arrived in the boss room. He used Katarina as a human shield. The golem swung its arm and sent Katarina flying through the air. Wow, what is this, my brother? He destroyed everything. I got so excited and accidentally used her as a weapon against the boss. A system notification popped up. The goblin, a real bastard, started screaming that this was his, referring to the goblin core. Katarina was sprawled on the ground, poor thing. Her arm was shaking as the goblin and golem battled, with explosions echoing throughout the place, and smoke and sparks covering the area. The goblin showed no mercy and shoved the stick right into the golem's chest, which collapsed. The goblin landed smoothly. It was as if nothing had happened, but our boy was quite calm, sighing with extreme relief. This was nothing against him. He just needed to grab the core. But before he could process both things, the goblin started to get stressed and agitated. The system said that the rune enhancement had reached phase 2, and he also leveled up in revival. But what the hell is this? Now it's giant and growing even bigger. In other words, this monster will get stronger every time. This golem has changed. Wow, now it's targeting our protagonist. so he activated his summoning skill again, and the golem charged straight at the golem, but Joshua shouted at him not to destroy it. He needed to try to block. If it breaks one more time, it will get stronger. The goblin jumped in front of him. He threw himself aside to dodge dangerously. That was the possibility. The goblin struck the ground with impacts that shook the entire earth. That's it. As a blow fell, bam! It's again 2 more blows. He dodged the attacks and thought to himself, wow, this is serious. Did he really mess up or what? Nothing he did had any effect other than taking down the core. He'll keep coming back stronger. The core should be his weak point. He compared himself to the Iron Titan, but he's not one of those. He doesn't have skills and just kept running, thinking quickly about what he could do. He thinks about crushing the enemy, and if that guy gets stronger, suddenly stronger than his goblin in the room, the attention only increases. Katarina is standing still, trapped in her thoughts. The golem's footsteps draw near, and he suddenly remembers something, a memory of a hidden trap. Katarina's eyes widen. In an instant, she lets out a horrifying scream. The strongest golem is there. He delivers a brutal punch to Katarina. The impact is deafening. Dust and debris fly, and the battlefield turns dark. Reaching a critical point, Katarina finds herself in danger. Her heart sinks. She fears the worst. She prays to be okay. Katarina tries to calm down, and the damage is likely not fatal, but the golem doesn't stop, unleashing punch after punch. She can barely see Katarina through the smoke. A voice resonates behind him. What the hell? What's going on over there? Katarina asks. She turns around confused, leaning on her magic staff. What's going on? She's lost, but soon seems to snap out of it. She surveys everything. Katarina wonders what she is doing there and who he is. What's happening? The protagonist starts to stutter, but the system quickly alerts. Escape skill activated, and stop shouting like that. He smiles, extremely confident. After all, he saved the heiress of the company. He's going to get a great reward. Wow, where's the problem? Katarina cuts through the chaos immediately. Hey, are you deaf or what? Changing her tone drastically, now even friendlier. Just yes. Do you want to know what happened? A girl who was attacked by monsters fainted in the middle of the dungeon during a noble speech. The gem fell out of nowhere, spinning like a mill, and collapsed with a bang. Wow, what a rage. You could have warned us. Again, another attack, Katarina screams, running around crazily. What he asked her only blinks carefully. He can't hesitate anymore. Catherine murmurs that she's afraid of what comes next, and if her father finds out, he might kill me. In this reality, Catherine screams in panic, and the others hold on tight. Gil ran to the room. You came back. The doctor confirms, and she is awake. Something very strange happened. She is in critical condition. Gil is furious. What the hell, you bastard? His stomach is churning. What did he do to her? The doctor is one step ahead. We need to take her off the game quickly by turning off the machine, and he refuses to let that happen. They can't shut it down like this. It's too risky with Daniel still active. The system hasn't released the option. He clenches his fists, and Kim Jong-un is controlling. He will see it live on the system. The ruined golem uses the ability Stone Missiles and hurls its 2 hands towards Catherine, and she, in turn, begins to run. But when she looks back, those 2 stone hands are about to hit her head, and she starts screaming. Suddenly, the goblin steps in front and strikes those 2 missiles, breaking everything in the air. Our protagonist asks what she thinks she's doing. After all, she'll never be able to counter that monster with that speed. Poor thing. She's there lying on the ground, and he asks if she's okay, but all she responds is that she's scared. She's very scared. She's afraid, and he keeps repeating that she's scared, crying. Poor girl. He approaches, trying to understand what's going wrong with this girl. This isn't quite right. Things are about to get a little more complicated. Meanwhile, our goblin is still laughing. He gets close to her from behind and raises his club, thinking he's just going to not care about this girl. After all, in this state, she's just dead weight. Catherine sobs, poor girl. Please, save me. And Hu Chumzum, scared, looks on while hearing, help me, I'm lost. I don't know how to escape, and I promise I'll pay. She promises to pay more than her father. Kim's expression changes completely. What the hell are you talking about? Of course I'm going to save you. We're all going to make it out alive. Relax, it's not quite that. Flight or fight, or you helping me. No answer, no family support, no one is going to help me. Gil, notify us on the communicators. Kim, you bastard, I'm fed up. If you don't bring the girl, you're going to cross paths with me. And the Goblin 99 raises the club, ready to attack. Don't do it! Juju shouts quickly. Listen here, buddy. You're overreacting. You're acting like it's my fault for asking for help. If you don't trust me, look at Katarina on the screen. She's fine. Look, trust is everything. Damn it, he didn't kidnap her. He just helped to recover her. Relax, brother. Gil is chill. The guy is still suspicious. He's wondering what's going on there. She looks fine. Why the sudden change? What the hell happened? He starts adjusting his glasses and realizes it was just a misunderstanding. Gil said he's also finishing up this deal and will go there in person to bring her back. But our protagonist starts complaining that he's at a crucial moment and needs to finish the job. So Gil simply hangs up. Phew, that was close. He got really scared. A skin tells her to be honest and that it's better she keeps her word about the money. She starts crying and calls him a liar, and he asks her not to misunderstand. After all, he needs a lot of money. If she doesn't pay, he's just going to tell them she woke up and demand the reward he needs. While they're talking, she cries, and the goblin keeps hitting the goblin back there. She tells him that even if she has to sell all her gear, she'll pay, but he thinks she's joking. After all, if she sold everything, she wouldn't be able to raise that amount of money, and he wants 100 million. So he claps his hands and tells the goblin it's time to get to work. The goblin smiles while the goblin is already at level 170 with 4 arms. Now he warned that the golem should have stopped hitting that monster. It's all that goblin's fault. Well, the two started running while the golem was smashing everything there. If just one hit lands, Kim is done for. But suddenly, an ice explosion spell hits, petrifying him. At the same moment, he looks back, wondering why that blow stopped moving. Did they succeed? But no, it was the girl who succeeded. She used the status effect Freeze. It's a power that can freeze targets. The duration decreases against higher level enemies. In other words, she won't be able to hold that monster for long. She screams for them to run while the monster is frozen. Soon it will break free, but just as she said that, the golem shattered all that ice, petrifying it. They sprinted to the exit door. While they were running, the rope that bound her got caught on one of the rocks, and she was yanked back. As the two continued running, she yelled for them to stop and help her. Those who stopped quickly glanced back as she pleaded for help, but the stone goblin was also running full speed after her. As she screamed, "Please, save me!" He froze, paralyzed, not knowing what to do. Then, the previous scene came to his mind. This time it was different from the last. She was killed because he was weak, but now he had to save her. He remembered that since she was killed by an enemy of level 80, she had been knocked unconscious. In other words, imagine if she were to die by a level 170 monster. She might have several doctors to save her, but he didn't. She began to cry, foreseeing her imminent end. All she thought then was that no matter how loud she screamed, he wouldn't come back. And in the end, he was just like the others. The golem's blow was about to hit her body as she screamed that no one would ever save her. Then, the blow struck the ground, shattering everything in the area. But then, we see that the goblin's hand was completely crushed and broken, and then it exploded into several pieces. A mysterious figure in a yellow cloak looked back, wondering who that guy was. The guy said he did a great job holding that boss. That was the NPC god. He said he could leave the rest to him, but why was that guy right there? Sometimes there are missions like this that are designed in such a way that no matter who the challenger is, they're destined to die first. The golem didn't have a core, and if it had continued to attack recklessly, it would have become infinitely stronger. If you fight against the enemy without knowing anything, you'll suffer a natural loss, and the story proceeds with the NPC having a crushing cinematic victory over the enemy. In the end, there's no better way to showcase the strength of the NPCs within a story. Who remembers that when they were hit by that level 50 thing before, they didn't bother to feel pain? It seems like it was a built-in system to prevent potential accidents. But that NPC wielded his sword while saying, "How dare you do this to my subordinate?" But who is this guy referring to as subordinate? In the next moment, he charged at the golem, while the king said he was counting on that NPC. In the following moments, his hair was standing on end with so many explosions happening. He looked a bit worried and in disbelief at what was occurring. The Olympicedeus was thrown far away and got up while saying that this wasn't even worth the warm-up. Why does this guy keep talking as if he has already won this fight? He charged at the golem again, and the golem used all 4 of its arms to strike him. The fight was insane. One moment the golem was hitting, the next it was taking damage. Even so, this guy kept saying it wasn't even worth warming up. This guy is level 70. Dude, the guy is level 70, you know that? Players usually receive these missions while being around level 30. This golem started at level 40, and even a normal player wouldn't be able to defeat this monster. They would lose to a level 45 golem, let alone a level 71. No chance. In the end, if he managed to win, he would pass through level 50 and so on. But the guy kept saying it was this cursed golem that intimidates all his people. In other words, this looks like, with the system's protection, it seems that a high-level NPC is going to arrive and will easily end this fight. While he was contemplating what was happening, the goblin was lying on his club, smiling quite normally. No player can elevate the Golem from 50 to 170, and that sort of thing simply doesn't happen. The guy kept getting beaten up and said that this wasn't even worth the warm-up, and now the system has completely glitched because the NPC destined to defeat this Golem can't proceed, but in fact, this NPC is the one who should finish this mission. As long as the Golem is not destroyed, he will not die. That means he could be useful. When the god NPC appeared, the Golem's core also materialized. But while he was saying this, the guy charged at the Golem trying to guess where the core was, and with a psychopathic grin, he said it was right there. But just before he could hit, our Goblin was quicker and struck exactly where he was aiming. With that, the Goblin used his stone throw ability. With just the throw of a tiny pebble, the Goblin was completely destroyed and fell to the ground. But the god NPC kept saying that this wasn't even worth his warm-up. If it weren't for him, everyone would be dead. Anyway, everyone is safe. He thinks this doesn't matter much, but thinks, what? Safe? He remembers the girl and she was still on the ground. Thank God, is the girl really safe? Then, back in the city, they are walking alongside that god NPC. Kim is tremendously embarrassed because he wasn't able to protect that girl again. She was going to die twice in front of him. Meanwhile, Ani noticed and said that he was right. Surviving in place of those two is enough to prove how strong he is. Now, he looks much worse than that woman who betrayed him. He starts to sweat as they head towards the vice captain of the Royal Knights. As dusk falls, they are going to meet him in person, and that god NPC tells them to be quiet and say nothing and ask nothing, that he will take care of everything. He winks and they will see each other soon. Then he starts to walk calmly and leaves, saying that maybe if they want to walk on clouds, they can work with him. This guy is really sick in the head. He stops there and stays quiet, with an exclamation mark over his head. Now only the two of them are together, Katarina and our king Shunzum. The situation is tense. He clenches his fists and gathers strength to speak to her. He begins to shout, saying that what happened before was his fault. Then the person approaches and says that she has finally awakened. Katarina, that guy is really big. Who is this guy? He has equipment I've never seen before and his skills are on another level. Is he just another rich guy or an incredibly skilled individual? But then he looks up and says, Father, a king. He knew she had regained consciousness the moment she had that convulsion, and he has been quite worried about her day and night. He also hoped she would get better once she became an adult, but she keeps making these mischievous antics. He then smiles, turns to Kim, and thanks her for taking care of his precious Katarina. It seems that their belief that she would finally wake up has come true, and he will ensure the team rewards her well soon. They will get in touch. He extends his hand to Katarina while Kim watches everything, thinking he is just a worthless piece of trash. Unfortunately, she hasn't even been able to scold him, but while the father carries her, he wonders why she doesn't ask for help again. Everyone thinks this guy is unreliable, but maybe, just this once, he could actually save her. He starts shouting for them to wait a second. Both of them turn to see what is happening. This guy is President Hank Mongo of the Mongo Group. He is also known for being quite kind, compassionate, a gentleman, and admirable, isn't he, Katarina? Is this man really the person I know? If he is the way everyone describes, why does her face look? Reflecting on the fact that she is about to die when a big guy like that came to get her, he grabs her hand while saying that he won't let her leave. Come on, Katarina, but she is frozen, hesitating to get out. Then suddenly, she pulls her arm away from his hand while he doubts whether he can really save her. But what right does he have, my brother? He breaks promises easily, and everyone knows he's just a coward, and she doesn't even expect to be saved. Was he thinking about becoming a hero? At this point, no. He hangs his head as he says, "You will always belong to the goblins, Kim Chuzu." Some people start commenting that that Night King is one of the 3 people who cleared the Duke's great archive. This is the Night King Hankamon, level 76, and also the president of the Semyoung group. Several people start shouting for autographs and also photos with him. But who is that beautiful lady next to him? He boldly lies that she is just someone he met recently at a party, while he whispers, "Remember, Katarina, engrave in your mind how people see me and how they see you. If they find out she is his daughter, imagine the outrage and the reaction they would cause." Several people start rushing towards the Night King, trying to ask for autographs and photos. Others even say it's a chance to meet the great king. Some people even pay for it. But those who remain thoughtful, wait a second. No matter how bad their life is, it can't be worse than mine. Yes, that's right. Why should he feel guilty? He decides to forget his payment while saying that this is not the end. Then suddenly, Sigri appears. But what the hell is he doing in a sewer? Did this guy get stuck in a place like this after the guards got him? A prison and a sewer? Your Grillo said that back then he was caught by the guards and managed to escape, and he's been there ever since. And it's actually not that bad. He can see everything around there that he would never see if he were outside, if you know what I mean? Imagine a guy hidden in a place where several girls are wearing dresses. He is talking about spying. He starts to say that the woman who was with the president, he said she was just a member of the group, but she looked seriously hurt. Compared to him, who acts like a fool and says hurt? I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe she got hurt fighting some monsters. He continues to say that pain is transmitted by signals from the brain. In other words, their bodies just feel pain, but don't end up like the ones we killed without any swelling. He said he saw things there that he wouldn't be able to see from the outside. Her body had signs of physical abuse. Wow, that was a shock for Kim. Then he ran over there, shouting for everyone to wait a second, and started calling the king a piece of trash. How dare that man kidnap someone in broad daylight in front of all those people? Aren't you ashamed of yourself? The guy smiles while saying he doesn't know what he's talking about, and kindly asks him to avoid saying such things to prevent misunderstandings. This guy thinks that because he is the president of a large organization, of a company, he doesn't have to follow the law. He starts shouting that that woman is his girlfriend, and moreover that they have been together for a long time. I didn't understand everything he said, but she went into shock after he said that. Is that true? If it is, it's a huge scandal. My guy said there's no evidence. After all, corporations are slandered with fake news all the time. But the guy keeps smiling and says he confused that girl with someone else while saying he is in a big hurry. Then he starts to say, if that woman isn't his girlfriend, then who is she to you? And he is celebrating alone with a woman in such revealing clothes, you old pervert. Why is a young girl walking with an old guy like that? It seems wrong. How is that any different from cheating? He thought this guy would be a nice guy. The old man continues to smile while saying that it's not even worth responding to. Let's go now. Suddenly someone stomps, gasping while stating that the two are together. That is Patrick, the butler of the Samyang group. Upon hearing that it was Mrs. Katarina, the heir apparent of the Samyang group, who had awakened, he quickly ran over. He knelt down, took her hand while saying that he loved serving the Samyang group, but Katarina understood none of what was happening. Yet those words made the crowd think that this was Katarina, the daughter of President Hank Mong. That's big news, but how could they trust a company with someone like that? Other people are quite confused. After all, the president said she was a temporary member of the group. Whatever it is, someone is lying. Is it him who is lying? Kim gets close to the president and tells him to be honest, while the president calls him a bastard. But Kim asks him if it wouldn't be better to say that she is his daughter now, to tell people that he failed to raise his daughter, but will guide her to act properly. There may be some confusion, but it's a manageable scandal. In that case, if he does that, he will make it clear that he must be crazy and that he mistook this person and that he has no relationship with this woman. And of course, he won't expose the fact that he is also abusing a certain someone. The president was disgusted and asked to weigh his words. After all, the words of a mutt are worth nothing against the words of a king. How could he say such words? He stomps firmly and begins to shout, telling everyone not to be swayed by him, not to believe a single word that this guy says. He realizes that this guy has an extremely high skill level. What kind of skill makes his words sound like needles piercing his head? Everyone is in shock, even that self-programmed butler of the group, and even that woman he just met today. They are all conspiring to blackmail him, and that is the story of the king. He, Hank Mong, would never do something of this magnitude. After all, he is the Samyang group. He then draws his sword as he says that right here he'll execute all three, activating the sin mode. This way he will prove that none of them have any kind of relationship. But just as he is about to charge forward, someone very small with green arms and Elmo hits his sword. That's all there is in this work. I searched a lot to try to find the rest, but I couldn't find it. I hope you liked it. I liked it a lot and want to see more chapters. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next video. But it wasn't long before a smaller soldier, also arming his club, closed the distance extremely quickly. A deafening noise echoed through the place. The explosion was so intense that it felt like space itself had trembled. The air became thick and a cloud of dust and stones flew everywhere, making it hard to see. The protagonist panicked, covering his ears while cold sweat trickled down his spine. He thought with a little smile that he had arrived at the perfect time. Then the goblin suddenly turned, its eyes red as embers, aiming at Shu Shu Sil and charging like an arrow. Faced with the imminent danger, Shu Shu shouted, mixing anger and fear, "Damn it, don't come near me!" He stepped back, heart racing, thinking, if these crazies find out I'm on the side of the guy who took down the president, I'm done for. Without wasting time, as the goblin was just a few steps away, Sushu activated his goblin throwing skill. In the blink of an eye, he grabbed his little companion and launched him into the sky with all his strength. His voice faltered. The guy was tense as he shouted, "Damn it, get out!" After throwing, he let out a sigh of relief and murmured to himself, "Phew, that was close." But when he turned around, he was terrified by the out-of-control crowd and shouted, "What the hell is this?" He had no idea who those lunatics were, but they charged forward as if there were no tomorrow. They were out of their minds. The scene slowly began to calm down, but the crowd started whispering among themselves. An old man said, curious, "What just happened?" The person next to him, still fixated on the collision site, replied, "They took down Rip Vong with a single blow." "What do you mean? Is that possible?" Another person interrupted, astonished. Then that guy suddenly flew up to the sky. Hearing the comments, Zushu couldn't hold back and discreetly curved his lips, a satisfied smile breaking out on his face. He thought, it was me who threw him. He then turned to Ketlin, who was there approaching with a worried look, but with a hint of strangeness. He squatted down, extending his hand to help and speaking softly, yet agitated. "Hey, Catherine, get up, girl! Wake up!" But Catherine's face suddenly darkened, her eyes as cold as ice. Pushed his hand away with a trembling but determined voice. Let go of me." Suddenly she held her head and shouted in despair, tears streaming down. "Leave me alone. I said leave me alone. Who do you think you are? You can't save me. Don't pretend you care whether I live or die." With those bitter words, Zulso smiled slightly, a mischievous glint in his eyes. He stepped closer, gently lifted her chin, and remarked in a teasing voice, "No, don't give me orders. Leaving you or worrying about you is my choice. Just because you expect a Prince Charming, don't blame me. Wake up, you bastard." He paused, his expression sharp, as he continued. "This place is full of trash like me. You might not even know how many crimes your father has committed, but right now, he is being punished by the heavens. It's your turn now. Enos's pack has caught your scent and is salivating. You're good at stabbing backs, right? So don't just kneel begging." Zulso's words were like blades, leaving Ketlin's face pale. But as soon as he finished, he was startled and looked closer at the girl in front of him. Her face flushed red, while he thought, "Oh no, looking closely, I see that she's not my girlfriend. What an embarrassment." He forced a smile, trying to hide his shame. "Ha, I just remembered I left the gas on at home. I need to get back soon." With that thought, Zulso turned his back and ran off as if chased by a ghost, leaving Ketlin alone in the crowd. At that moment, the gentleman stepped forward, calmly extending his hand. "Sister, if you have something to say, now is the time." Catherine stood up slowly, looking at the crowd. She contemplated for a moment, then began to speak slowly, with a determined voice. "I'm Cheon Ken outside the virtual world." On the screen of TV1, a hot report emerged. Gaiman, the two sides of the president of the Zion Group. A nice guy in front of others, but a violent father at home. The marks on Catherine's body were exposed, accompanied by her moving statement, "I want to die." The whole world was shocked by her story. Catherine was at the eye of the storm, claiming to be the daughter of a foreigner and revealing the abuse she suffered since childhood. At first, there was some suspicion that she was pretending to be someone else, but when the evidence popped up on social media, they were left with no questions. The truth spread like wildfire. The image and stock price of Zion plummeted. Guimau announced he was sick, but everyone knew it was just a facade. Back to the scene upon hearing the story, Tensu slammed the table and shouted in panic, "Damn, I'm so worried I can't sleep. What if the old man hires a hitman to take me out?" Blood, serenely sipping his tea, said, "Please speak more softly here in the restaurant." Shensu looked at him, filled with anger. "Do you want to die? Speak properly." Zongren smiled and said, "Images of you and Guime facing off are spreading across social media. If something happens to you, who do you think everyone will suspect?" First, Chukshu smirked. "It's you." Zongran shook his head. "It's not, Jimeno." Chuso frowned and cursed. "Damn, it was very reckless to confront a big corporation without gaining anything. I should have stayed in my lane and lived in peace." Edson Grun remained calm. "Trust me, what you're doing is worth much more than money." Chuso replied, "I'd rather believe anything than you." Then he turned, curiously looking at Zongrung's butler outfit. "By the way, you really dress like a butler. Where did you get that outfit?" Zongrung made a disdainful expression. "From someone's house. Where else would I get it?" Shortly afterward, a guard appeared to take Zongrung away. Chukshu watched him leave, shaking his head. "That guy is hopeless." Suddenly, a notification popped up in front of him. Chukshu was shocked and shouted, "You're Zai Zhou's lackey!" The butler adjusted his glasses, slightly surprised but maintaining his composure. "Don't call me that," he continued in a lower voice, thanking for having helped the young girl. As she regained consciousness, she never imagined she would have to endure all of this for so many years, and he didn't even notice. Susu made a disappointed face. Moreover, after doing a good deed, she wouldn't receive a single penny in return. The president was a petty man. He thought that even with the misunderstanding, being fired without a dime was ridiculous. Joe sighed and said he wouldn't work for Zion anymore. He couldn't stay at a company that treated family that way. Chuso rolled his eyes. Naturally, he was unemployed too. That really left his thoughts restless. How could the girl who stabbed her own father in the back be okay? The only person who protected her was gone. Joe clenched his fists, his voice filled with determination, asserting that he was right. The young lady and even the whole world were worried about her. Everyone feared she might hurt herself by defaming the president. So, he took her with him, pointing at Ketlin, who was live on YouTube with 360,000 viewers. She was in a police cosplay, smiling while shouting, "Should I dance a Rick?" Joe explained that he used all of his severance pay to support her stream. Her fame would help her feel safer. If she ever went dark without warning, it would mean something had gone wrong. Chususu swore under his breath, wondering what that meant. He wasn't fond of that idea. How could a young woman from a conglomerate endure all of this? She was reclaiming everything that had been stolen, thanks to Kim Chunsu. Chunsu felt embarrassed and shouted, "What kind of talk is this?" So close, he called her a pervert and told him to speak normally. If he wanted to thank her, he should pay up. Joe chuckled softly, saying he sent a gift she would love. The boss had prepared that personally, but it was too late. Joe had already hung up. He turned to Catherine, murmuring that he wanted to wrap it up sooner. "Thank you for your audience, our 10,000 loves." He looked at her with thoughtful eyes. Maybe the young lady wasn't the heir of the conglomerate, but she had star quality, truly amazing person. The NPC Rachel smiled, introduced herself as Jaquel, and asked how she could help. Chunso leaned on the table, pouting. Inquiring if there were any items for him, there was only one box, probably golden armor or an expensive item. Rachel said she would take good care of the box. The NPC smiled gently, stating that the item was secured. She went to the shelf and brought a box, but a notification appeared. Cursed item. Just touching it could drive someone insane. Rachel grabbed a whip, her cold eyes fixed on Chunsu. She challenged him. "Hey, who do you think you are to decide whether we should take it or not?" Chunsu, irritated. "Damn it, he never asked to hold it." The notification continued. Rare grade cursed item. Whip made from the skin of a winged creature. If used without breaking the curse, it would have random effects and the creature would go out of control. Chunsu's eyes widened as he murmured about the curse. If he used it, he would go insane like the NPC. He silently cursed. Damn, did Ketlin give me this cursed item before separating us? He turned and saw the god NPC who had a yellow question mark above his head. The next mission was to clear the village of goblins and solve the problems. A simple mission he could accomplish, of course. Chunsu leaned over, activated the goblin summoning skill, holding a little friend in his hand. He whispered, "What now?" After seeing the guys, the god NPC continued, "Eliminate the goblins, they are not easy. Can you fight the goblins?" It was his fate he would manage, right? The goblin merely made a protesting noise. Chunsu frowned, thinking that this deal smelled bad. He tried to make small talk, but the goblin tugged at his hand, protesting. Chunsu grew furious, wondering why he was acting like a monster. "Are you just going to stand there and let them find us and beat us?" But from a distance, a shadow silently observed the little goblin in the cart, cleaning its ear. Chunsu shouted, "You never listen, always causing trouble with whatever you want. You're an idiot. I hate you." But when he said that, he remembered the airplane's words about a broken, unrequited love. He clenched his fists, murmuring that he didn't want to talk anymore. Chunsu was about to speak when a loud noise from outside the cart interrupted him. Another goblin jumped onto the cart shouting loudly. Chususu panicked and screamed, "Uncle Su's goblin friend grabbed your wooden staff." His alert eyes, alongside Chususu, frantically yelled, "Kill! Kill that goblin!" The driver, in a panic, shouted wildly, "What was that noise?" And inside the cart, the enemy goblin had taken a hit but was still alive. This left Chunsu furious, his face red as a tomato as he shouted, "What the hell was that goblin doing?" But before he could finish his sentence, the other goblin charged at Chunsu. Its head, like a beast, bit down hard. A notification flashed, dealing 173 damage. The goblin pulled his hair, and he scratched as if there was no tomorrow. Uncle Sushu writhed, screaming desperately, cursing loudly. "Damn! Something about that crazy goblin was your own goblin!" After an epic struggle, soaked in sweat, Uncle Sushu finally managed to pry the monster off his head. He panted, still yelling in rage, but before he could recover his companion, a goblin wielding a wooden club looked at him as if it was about to charge. Chunsu, desperate, backed away, his voice trembling, begging not to be attacked. Suddenly, the cart's curtain was pulled aside. The driver, an NPC, jumped with a face like he had seen the devil, shouting a very confused question. Chuso, still dazed, pointed at the goblin and yelled that it was a monster, a damn monster. Climbing onto the cart, the NPC followed his finger. His gaze stopped on the goblin clinging to Chuso. He frowned and calmly said it was just a goblin since they were near their village. "I'll take care of this with a shot!" Then Chuso hurriedly yelled for him to wait. "Look ahead, man! Shoot what's in front of you!" The NPC raised his gun right away, but the bullet missed and hit Chuso's head. Hell notification, 580 damage. He held his head, screaming in pain that he shouldn't have been shot. While Chuso was still writhing in pain, the other, Goblin, who didn't care at all, advanced with its club. Unfortunately, Chunsu ducked just in time, narrowly escaping the deadly blow. He got up, cursing the goblins. "What did you do? Dude, someone save me!" The plea for help left the enemy goblin confused, pausing its attack. With wide eyes, it murmured, desperately asking for help. It just seemed like they were capturing its crew. It only wanted to save, not hurt anyone. Chuso was shocked, eyes wide, wondering what was going on. That goblin had just spoken. The cart kept shaking along the bumpy road. Inside, Chuso ground his teeth, staring at the speaking goblin, wondering what the hell this was. A goblin communicating like a human, but in the end, it was just a speaking goblin. What's the difference? The trapped goblin, swaying like a kite, begged for help. It just wanted to save its people, with no intention of harming anyone. Chuso ignored it, unleashing a torrent of sarcasm. "You want to die and have the nerve to talk like that after you bit my head?" He had nothing against the goblin, but the logic didn't seem to make sense. Now he was heading straight for the village to take out all the goblins. After a while of traveling, the driver said they had arrived. Chuso looked ahead and murmured that this place was a dark tunnel leading to the goblin village. The driver said it was the right path to the village. Chuso jumped out of the cart, and from here, it was time to take the path on foot. The NPC shrugged, saying he was feeling lazy, and that's how he turned around and disappeared in seconds, leaving Chuso behind. Chuso, holding the speaking. Goblin stared at the tunnel and thought that the route to the monster village would surely be full of traps. Saving the goblin had its perks. The goblin began to sweat coldly, trembling, as it said it understood. Now, if someone had to die, make it just it, okay? The other goblins weren't guilty. The attack had been just a mistake. Chuso pulled the goblin and looked at it with a cold stare. He wasn't going to save anyone. The terrifying expression sent the goblin into a panic. It said it didn't hate humans, and that they were a peaceful race. Chuso, laughing sarcastically, asked, "Wasn't the attack on the village meant to cause trouble?" The goblin hurried to explain that actually, it was the opposite. It was the humans who had tormented them. Chuso, hearing this, became thoughtful. He was only doing this because it was his duty. In fact, he had nothing against them. He had never seen them do anything wrong. Goblins had this reputation for being evil monsters, so it was normal to kill them. But if a goblin died, who would cry for him? Suddenly, 2 goblin children ran out of the darkness. One shouted for their father. Chuso froze on the spot, thinking about what he could have done. The speaking goblin shouted immediately, calling for his son. "Don't worry, just run! Get out quick!" Chuso interrupted, pointing forward. The goblin companion raised his hand, trying to stop him, but he had already thrown a stone with force towards the children. The 2 goblin children froze in fear. The freed-speaking goblin ran to protect the children. Fortunately, the stone did not injure anyone. Chuso, cutting the mood, said that was enough. The goblin was shocked by the situation. Chuso continued saying he wouldn't kill anyone. He said there are humans who act like monsters, even harming their own children to save themselves. The goblins who risk everything for their families cannot be considered villains. The goblin father embraced his trembling children. Seeing this scene, Chuso could only think, "Heaven is mocking me." Even the goblin king did not say a word, but deep down, Chuso realized they were no better than him. Soon after, Chuso was taken to the goblin village. The other goblins looked at him with suspicious eyes and he grimaced, thinking, "Damn, as soon as a human shows up, everyone gets all wary." But he quickly corrected himself, thinking that in reality, they weren't that suspicious after all. Some goblins approached, curious, asking where he came from. One of them said, "Get out of here, you're horrifyingly ugly." He clenched his teeth, thinking that he wasn't a goblin. The speaking goblin was the village chief, who arrived confidently saying, "Hold on there, partner. Let me get in the wagon." He admitted he was also in doubt. "With that face, what are you, human?" Chuso cursed internally, wondering if it would be better to just end them all. He turned around, trying to keep calm, and asked if he could leave. He was feeling very restless. The village chief let out a laugh. saying not to worry, but Chunsu thought, "What worries me is accidentally killing you." The chief waved his hand and insisted that he not do that. He said he was a wounded adventurer in disguise and that if he wasn't invited for a meal, he wouldn't be at peace. They entered the village cafeteria, and before Chunsu was a horrendous dish full of crawling food and insects. The name of the dish was Helping Goblins with Deadly Poison. He screamed in shock. The name clearly stated that it contained deadly poison. A goblin brought the dish to the children, shouting, "Guests, come on, don't run." Meanwhile, the children kept playing while Chunsu just stood still, staring at the dish. He misguidedly thought, "Luckily this is just a game, so I won't feel anything." He thought, "What the hell am I doing amidst these monsters?" Suddenly, a goblin bumped into him, and a plate of food flew straight into his face. Chunsu screamed in pain. "Damn it!" The village chief let out a loud laugh. Chunsu yelled angrily, "Stop laughing, you miserable! I told you to stop laughing." Another curious goblin asked, "Why are you two together? It's the first time I see a human and a goblin getting along like this." Chunsu wiped the food off his face and calmly said, "Be realistic. This is my summoned beast. I only control it." The goblin asked, "What's this summoned beast thing? But if you travel with an adventurer, wouldn't it be the top goblin of all?" Chunsu thought to himself, "My family and this village will never leave here, realizing they are weak. This place is just a low-level dungeon, and they will never escape." The chief's wife approached and patted her husband on the shoulder. "Come on, stop being so gloomy. I'll get some snacks. You all wait here." In this warm atmosphere, Chunsu remarked, "Why so glum? You're a goblin with a good wife and a happy family, and I'm a human with no wife, friends, or courage. How is that? I even look at myself and doubt my own worth. I might not have a reason for a goblin like you not to also." He gave a virtual salute and encouraged, "Let's go, goblin buddy." Suddenly, beneath the table, two goblins attacked. A third one from above came down with a scythe to attack. The village chief smiled. "Thanks for the words, friend." The scythe dug into the table, luckily without causing damage. A message appeared on the system. Kim Chuso, level 37, goblin summoner, medium strength, limited stamina, agility 32, intelligence 1, no luck. Chuso was perplexed. What the hell is this? An 18-level goblin stared at him with eyes full of fear. He had no idea that under the table, a goblin was ready to attack. A fellow goblin threw a stone at Chuso but missed badly. The stone turned towards the table and hit the goblin underneath, making it scream in pain. Chuso sighed and said, "What a pity. I couldn't catch him." Suddenly, something passed by him. He got up. "Well, it's time for me to go. I want to stay, but the situation is urgent," murmured the boss's wife. "What do we do, boss?" Sweating bullets, the boss just repeated, "What do you mean by what we should do?" But everyone shouted in unison, "Adventurer, be careful!" He turned around and said loudly, "Sorry for not." Saying goodbye, he left muttering, "That was definitely accomplished." Hongmi-che grabbed the sword tightly and charged at Chuso. Her voice sounded threatening. When Chuso saw the fallen goblin, his eyes widened and burned with fury. He gritted his teeth and growled, "What the hell is this? You are a player? What are you doing in this filthy place?" The protagonist looked at the three goblins and let out a sarcastic smile. "Oh, he got it! He thought the visitor was there to kill the guys. Too, right?" Chuso's expression changed. His face became much more intense, his eyes burning with rage. He roared, "What guy dares to touch his comrade?" Without thinking twice, he activated PK mode, pointed forward, and commanded, "Go, goblin!" Upon hearing the order, the fellow goblin kicked the goblin next to him, as if trying to throw the blame onto him. The kicked goblin panicked and yelled, "What?" He asked if they should really go forward. Instinctively, the goblin ran, but when he got close, Hong Min Chul was kicked away, flying several meters. He fell dramatically, moaning in pain. The poor guy was in deep trouble. Seeing this, Chansu yelled, "Damn it, you guys, that crazy guy, of course it wasn't him who did this, but the other one, the goblin. The one I was with let out a giggle showing his sharp teeth." Chunsu shot a burning glare, feeling that the other did it on purpose. "Hey, what the hell are you doing? Being friends with a goblin isn't enough. Now you trigger PK and come at me." Good thing he was around. There was some grudge. Chusul clenched his fists tightly, his voice trembling with rage. "Don't forget that you attacked my brother!" Without further ado, he threw a straight punch to Hongo Mission's face, dealing a huge amount of damage, but he just smiled sarcastically. In another corner, an explosion echoed. Holding a goblin by the neck, he asked why he was so excited. Next to him, another character commented that there was no stronger goblin and said that this mission was incredibly boring. Then, she waved her hand. Also in front of her, Chunsu appeared, doing a handstand. Oh no, he got startled and shouted, "What the hell is that? A person or what?" He said the goblins were friends, but now he was hitting me. He made a face of disbelief. Hong Mi-cho shook his head. "No, it wasn't me. He activated PK first." Even wearing different armor, it didn't help. He ran away and flipped over. The dwarf looked at Chunsu and sighed. It's no wonder he's friends with goblins. At this rate, they're probably going to have to kill him to complete the mission. With that, Hong Mi-cheon entered the village and began the slaughter. He murmured that the mission was crap, just eliminating goblins and getting it over with. Then, he brandished his sword and decapitated the village chief's wife, causing her to quit the game immediately. Tunso's goblin companion pointed forward, made noises, and laughed as if he had won the lottery. Meng Minsao tightened the grip on his sword, his voice cold. "Can you really laugh watching your own people die? If your own child died, you wouldn't even blink, right?" He continued to jab. "You goblins live without morals. Goblin elimination missions are meant to clean up trash like you. It was well past time for you to vanish." The expression on the goblin companion became insane. In the back of the village, another explosion occurred. "Didn't you wonder what was going on?" Zero shouted the name of Hong Ming-keon. "Enough already." Chunso, lying on the ground, covered his face and began to laugh maniacally. "Ha ha, you said that the mission against the goblins was a drag. If that's the case, you're going to have fun with that goblin over there." The goblin companion had already knocked Hong Ming-keon down in the blink of an eye. Mischievously, Chunso declared that this was the strongest goblin chief in the village. Without hesitation, NM charged and delivered a straight punch to the goblin, which was easily blocked, biting his leg and letting out a cry of joy. Zeros shouted, "Use the violent warrior ability! Bubble burst!" Hit him hard. The pony broke free from the control, landed softly, and looked at the cloud of dust in front of it. It murmured what it saw. That goblin really caught its kick with its mouth. Zeros taunted, "At that moment you said no goblin was strong, now you're all scared." "Oh no." He gritted his teeth in anger. "Who said I was scared? I'm just surprised he's strong. It depends on what's going to happen, right?" John smiled maniacally, moving closer to put his arm around the unconscious Hong Ming-keon. "This guy is really something. Wake up and say something, buddy. You lost so badly you passed out. When we get back, he's definitely going to be teased for losing to a goblin." One turned around angrily and shouted that he should shut up. Sao Su glared at her provocatively. "Your group only knows how to betray, but our goblins are loyal. It seems that killing goblins is just a way for them to show off. Is that it? Hang the goblin heads on the wall as trophies." Onem shouted loudly that he would never display such things. Zeros commanded, "Don't waste energy arguing. Face that goblin first." Soon he unleashed a burst of power that shook the air. The South stood still, thinking that all of this was nonsense. This goblin isn't going to hear the kid anymore. If they hadn't provoked him, he wouldn't be going crazy. He shouted, "Take them down quickly!" From that moment, the goblin's expression changed rapidly, rolling onto its back and hissing. The sun growled in anger, seeing that it was going crazy again. Thankfully, it wasn't planning to disobey. Suddenly, its eyes widened at the thought of something absurd. Part of the goblin, in a tone of flattery, asked, "Save my life, Lord Goblin, all-powerful creature resembling an ostrich. If you do nothing, death is certain." The goblin simply smiled disdainfully, feeling on top of the world, but did nothing. Then he whispered, his teeth ashamed to have to pay homage to a low-level goblin. But if he couldn't make him obey, he would be in trouble. Pride won't fill his stomach. With a trembling voice, he began, "I apologize for being disrespectful to Lord Goblin. From now on, I won't give crazy orders. I will save up and prepare the best meals for him, or not." He stood perplexed nearby. She called him friend, and now here he is, on his knees begging. "If you asked me to be careful, take a step back. Do you want me to finish you off now?" At that moment, something flew straight into his face, dealing 99999 damage. He fainted instantly. Oni was shocked, while Chunso smiled contentedly. "Ah, it seems the prayer worked." System notification. The Goblin King is super happy with the cowardly existence of, humanity. You have gained a goblin point. Chunso stood up, proudly looking at the players. She did not shout, "Hey, Hongmin, stop messing around, it's not funny." She turned to Zero, who had collapsed against the wall. Her eyes widened in shock. "What madness!" Zero took the only hit and died to the goblin. "This is ridiculous. Who set such a cheap trap in a goblin extermination mission that can end like this?" She turned around and ran. Chunso laughed loudly. "Oh wow, you were so eager to kill before, now you're running away." The partner goblin advanced, gripping her ankle. "Or not!" She was knocked face down on the ground. Chunso approached, raising her hands to the sky and murmuring like a lunatic, "Oh, goblin comrades, the era of our oppression is coming to an end. No more humans massacring us. No more hiding in caves for our entire lives. Our faces will grow insane. The voice echoed. Our savior is here, he shouted. Humans are treacherous scum, always stabbing us in the back. They are the enemies that need to be eliminated. It's time to react. Immediately, all the goblins in the village ran towards the kidney, their eyes wide with fear, while the monsters roared toward the Phoenix Castle of Elbasa on the colossal castle wall. 2 guards were lazily at the gate. One of them turned and jokingly asked his colleague, "Write a 3-word poem about goblins." The other, yawning, replied, "Flag, flag, flag." The first cursed, "You idiot, stop with that nonsense." Now suddenly, the guard noticed something strange. His eyes narrowed and his voice shook. What the hell is that? In the distance, a dense crowd, as dark as the ancient Mongol armies, advanced. Small green figures moved at a frightening speed. The guard spoke, confusedly. His voice was agitated. At that moment, a wave of goblins surged forward, wild eyes howling like beasts. At the front of the tumultuous ranks was Chunsu, standing on a rock, ordering, "Listen, you crazies! The goblins, the human city will be completely destroyed by us." The scene shifts to 3 hours earlier. The South was enraged, his eyes shining violently. He murmured, "Humans are the enemies. They must all be eliminated." He turned to the goblins and shouted, "Gather everyone! It's time to act!" The goblins got excited and shouted, "Damn it! Kill them all! Kill them all!" Chunsu calmly positioned himself in front of Ahin, who was tied up with terrified eyes. He smiled coldly. "Wait! Don't kill! If she dies, she'll return to the resurrection sanctuary in the village. The traitor cannot leave so easily. One's dead, the other unconscious, neither of them presses the resurrection button. Do you want to feel the pain they're feeling?" A kidney trembled, clenching its fists and holding back tears. She was calm, but her eyes overflowed with rage and fear. Chus whispered, with a wicked expression, stroking his chin and laughing, seeing up close, "This girl is something. Let me try to ride her." Onhinho's eyes widened in horror, shouting, "What?" Chunsu was mounted on the back of the real Onum, raising his fists and shouting, "Kill all those humans for me! Hey!" He leaned in, warning, "Don't be foolish and close your account. Your money and weapons are in my hands." Anonymous cried silently, but tried to shout, "All right, I will return it." Sue grimaced. "Great! When the age of goblins arrives, you will be a pet." The girl screamed loudly. Filled with resentment and refusing to accept the situation, she demanded to call the explorers quickly. However, her desperate screams went unnoticed. Everyone in the guild continued to work calmly. With his hands on his hips, he wondered if this was a joke and questioned who was attacking. The guild's vice master, Blazing Fury, smirked sarcastically, claiming that they were just goblins. Those tiny goblins were no cause for concern. He said he had plenty outside. Jermim sighed lazily, saying, "Those goblins could be contained by the guards." Iron, who was sitting nearby, asked about the goblins. Moro, leaning against the wall, made a sarcastic comment about an event in the game. Slot, nearby, interrupted, advising against getting involved. If someone got carried away and lost track of the dungeon's schedule, it could be a problem. Oros, with a cold smile, joked about how frightening the situation was, and mentioned he at least wanted to protect himself. He questioned the group about what they meant. Suddenly, something rushed past outside the window. A goblin crashed through the glass and ran into the hall, but as it hit the ground, Oros aimed his weapon at it. A shot echoed, and the goblin was sent to the other world. Oros, calm, commented on what that actually was. A real goblin. Lot watched, wondering if Oros had eyes on the back of his head, and tightened the grip on his sword behind his back, murmuring about the absurdity of the situation. He believed it was a prank. Everyone shouted that they were truly under attack. The knight joined the guild leader Blazing Fury and began to slay the goblins with his sword. He remarked that this attack must be intense, since miserable creatures like those could be quite boring. Twin, the vice leader, was left speechless by the goblin's power. Activating a skill called Professor's Insight, he was shocked. There weren't hundreds, but tens of thousands, maybe even more. A massive wave of goblins flooded the hall like a tsunami. The adventurers, overwhelmed by that onslaught, shouted about that crazy number. Amid the chaos, Oros remained calm. The guild leader, Armstrong, turned to the girl beside him and asked if she planned to just stand there. She was not enjoying this situation. She sighed without words after the moment. Irene stood up, murmuring about how everything was different from the last time when the goblin offspring weren't cute at all. She waved her hand, saying it was time to go. Chunsu was among the
goblins, laughing loudly. He enjoyed saying they would either make or feel hell. The pink-haired girl was suffering, running and screaming for them to stay away, but she ended up bumping into a level 8 goblin and knocked it down. She questioned the fragility
of those guys. These goblins were simple, only good in numbers. She stated that goblins were trash. These words made the goblins hesitate. Their gazes showed a brief discouragement. The group shouted that they were terrible goblins. Where did they think they were? The three immediately launched fireballs, attacking and causing an explosion. The bald guy was laughing excitedly, already saying they were just trash, that they were at most level 20 and wanted to exterminate them all. He wondered what kind of ability people had to retaliate. Then he turned to a goblin who was sitting arrogantly. He knelt down using a technique called Great Flattery. He spoke about the comrades being oppressed, the troops being demoralized, begged for a miracle, and that it was time to give up the fight. Chunsu pleaded for mercy and asked him to listen to his heart. The goblin sitting in the chair laughed, mocking. The other three continued to attack the goblins relentlessly. The bald man laughed loudly, thrilled with the hunt. He said that the goblin was fun to fight, but he didn't know that the Goblin King was approaching. The Goblin King came closer and the bald man murmured. Then a simple blow threw him aside. The Goblin King landed, making exciting whistling sounds. The three fell unconscious, returning to the village. Shun smiled excitedly, saying they were the fools. Underestimating goblins led to that consequence or not. He wished to face the Goblin King, proclaiming the true nature of goblins. The goblin troops were revitalized, roaring and charging towards the three. Chunsu had to intervene. He said it was enough. They were already dead. They needed to deal with the rest. But his words were ignored. The goblins attacked frantically. Some dragged Sue away. Chunsu yelled in anger, questioning the direction they were taking the girl. He jumped off Hanrin's back and ran after them. The protagonist shouted, "You crazy people!" and screamed for them to let her go, but the goblins didn't care and continued, biting his hand hard, making him scream in pain. Chunsu, already furious, clenched his fists tightly and whispered, "These bastards have completely lost their minds!" Then, in the blink of an eye, a foot smashed into the ground. An adventurer advanced confidently, ready to attack the group of goblins. The goblins froze as the guy flew by. In seconds, they were all spitting blood, headless. Chunsu was stammering at the sight, his eyes widening as he realized who it was. Gold looked around and thought, how strange. Why the hell would those goblins be there? Then he turned to Chuso and asked, "What's going on?" For a moment, his expression went blank. "Actually, I have no idea either." Gold frowned and commented, "What a hassle." He analyzed the area and noticed that at least 11 of them, the adventurers, were still trying to hold on, but it was impossible. The number of goblins was overwhelming, and even if each one just took a jab, many of them in action wouldn't be without victims for long. Holding the sword with both hands, Gold declared again, "If this battle drags on, it's going to get worse." He then quickly took an offensive stance, determined to end it all at once. Chunsu, beside him, tried to stop him. "Wait!" He grabbed Gold's shoulder and argued. "It's not because the goblins couldn't just stand there taking a beating that they didn't react." He reminded Gold of what he had mentioned earlier about the game only giving missions like standing there killing goblins, and the next mission being to exterminate the entire goblin village just because the description labeled them as evil monsters. "You believe this without even checking? It's not worth dying for." Chunsu, with gritted teeth, threw down a challenge. "Goblins are evil, so they must be exterminated. Doesn't that sound a bit stupid? Damn it, it's just that you guys never tried to have a conversation with them." Gold hesitated and shot back. "Talking to goblins is a complete waste of time. They only have greed on their minds," he shouted loudly. "Stop messing around. What the hell do you know to say that? Goblins have villages, they marry, raise kids, they live like us, humans." Calmly, Gold retorted, "They're just pretending to live like that," and explained. "Goblins are monsters. They come from the abyss and have no families or kids. Every step and action they take is just to deceive adventurers." But he didn't stop there. "But I don't want to exterminate the whole species. They have the right to exist, but if their population grows too much, it will ruin world peace." Then he explained to Chunsu, "We need to eliminate them gradually to maintain balance." Chunsu's face twisted at this. "Don't talk nonsense. And even if it is like that, have you stopped to think about the people about to die? If you had ever tasted the hot food they cooked, you wouldn't be saying that." Gold silenced Chunsu with 3 words. "It's poisonous," he added. "Maybe, but the goblin soup was toxic, and let's be honest, nothing there was special." He was in shock and shouted, "That fried junk is disgusting. They ended up in this situation because of me." Hey, thinking back, I remembered that memory about that group. They came back, leading Chuso to conclude, damn, that fry really has some strange stuff. He gritted his teeth, admitting, fine. Looking back, everything is really weird. This is a game. In the game, monsters just appear. There's no such thing as giving birth or getting married. It's all just performances. Sunso shot a furious glance at the band of goblins. Those bastards dared to fool me. The others continued giving advice, but Sunso took off, holding his head and sighed. It seems I've gotten myself into something bad, but there's still time to run. However, before she could move, Chukshu jumped onto her shoulders and ordered a change of plans. At that instant, the goblin summoning ability was activated. Chuso shouted, "All goblins pay attention." He raised the goblin he was holding, catching the attention of the whole group, and then proclaimed loudly, "The Messiah said that everyone needs to stop and look up. Enough! All goblins, stop fighting! Go on, give it your all!" No one listened. Chuso's eyes widened in horror at the scene. "Stop fighting!" He saw the goblins going wild and attacking the same corpses and couldn't help but think, damn, what's wrong with these guys? Observing that insane behavior, he silently wondered, why is nobody listening now? But Chuso shouted with all his might, "Don't you hear the Holy Messiah? Everyone, stop right now, at this very moment." Another guy appeared out of nowhere. "Hey, what's that guy doing with the goblins?" Chunsu grimaced, looking at that, silently cursing. "Damn, I have no idea what's going on. No, this isn't just a misunderstanding." With a smooth movement, Chunsu turned, surprising Yunin. It was just a maneuver to prepare his next ability. Someone else stuck out their tongue at this little performance. "That impressive jumping technique almost made me think you were the genius of the operation with the goblins. You're just a supporting character, but acting like the protagonist." So, trusting Chunsu, he decided, help kill some more goblins. He let out a sigh. That was close. At that moment, the goblin finally held its head. Chunsu cast a disappointed glance and sighed. He paced nervously and shouted, thinking, "Oh no, hurry up. I was trying to explain. Wait, that's not it. Before, I didn't make the wrestling move. I slipped back and fell, that's all." The goblin quickly crouched down and picked up a huge rock, aiming it to attack. He shouted, "Shit, that's it. I better disappear fast." Chuksuzu grabbed Nin's arm, using her as a human shield, and she bore the force of the goblin's stone while Chuksuzu used a skill to control the goblins. He whispered to Wan, who was bleeding, "I will never forget your noble sacrifice in the goblin's full belly." Chuksuzu threw Nin aside, now useless, and faced the goblin. "Damn! You really hit me! Summon the beast and still dare? What audacity!" Chunsu almost tore his own clothes from the frantic hand movements. "That won't help you at all!" The goblin continued to stare at Chunsu with a defiant expression, and he declared, "Looks like it's time to teach a lesson." Suddenly, a shadow flew by, grabbing Iron's attention. She watched, confused. A stone, and then looked down. There was Chunsu facing the goblin directly. Irene thought, is the droopy-eared goblin the same as before? What the hell is going on? What is he doing here? When her eyes widened in shock. What is with that flaming red whip? This guy is messing around. It can't be. He really intends to use a whip until it bleeds. That item is cursed. Without breaking the curse, it's a trap. If not resolved, the user might suffer random effects, and the summoned beast will enter berserker mode. Susu began whipping, like a madman, shouting at the goblin's face. Why didn't I think about why Catherine gave me this? Now he understood. It was to beat the goblin into a pulp, and that's how he swung the whip. Irene tried to intervene, but a catastrophic explosion took over the place. The blue dragon's head was among the bodies of the goblins, laughing and exclaiming, "Those bastards charged in heavily. It was a real slaughter." The guild's vice leader, Anxious, reminded, "Sir, it's not the time to celebrate. The blood supplies are at the bottom of the well. The adventurers are falling like flies." The blue dragon's head shouted, furious, "If you can't handle these monsters, trash is what you are in battle. Who dies gets expelled from the guild, got it?" Meanwhile, the yellow head kept firing away. The goblins turned to smoke with every shot like fireworks. This shooting practice should be more than enough. He commented. The girl, worried, did the count for him. "Please, don't get me wrong. You fired 100 shots, but only took down 99. Don't think I'm going to guess just because they're goblins." The golden head gave a thumbs up, smiling. "I'm not doubting the Vice's skills, but it's that guy back there." She turned and replied. At that moment, a bullet whizzed by inches from her, heading towards a goblin. "Which guy?" The bullet made a tiny hole in the goblin's head. "A worthy finish. This fountain of blood is just for you." He shot the last bullet into the sky. The other goblins were in complete chaos. The green dragon head asked, "Why are they eliminating the goblins as if they were picking vegetables?" With his sword surrounding itself in power, he exclaimed, "If you're tired of monsters, this is how it's supposed to be done." He swung the sword, flames exploding, and the goblins froze, respecting his power. A strong goblin stepped forward. The leader, dressed in white, warned, "Wait, something's very wrong with these goblins. They're retreating towards something grotesque." He was smiling and fiercely staring at the vice. The leader quickly warned, "Something's very strange." The green dragon had jumped, holding a sword, and activated the ability Celestial Flames Cannon. He shouted, "Burn them all!" A pillar of power surged into the sky, followed by a terrifying explosion. Tanlong's head was amid the flames, and he declared, "A goblin dragon or whatever it is, if it messes with me, it's going to end up in ashes." Suddenly, a goblin leg emerged from the fire. Tanlong smirked, ironic, almost amused. The goblin slowly emerged from the flames. Tanlong cursed, "What the hell is this now?" Meanwhile, Iron was panicking, trying to find a solution. But Shunsu, with a clown's face, whipped towards the goblin that was there, all smiley. The whip swung, almost reaching the monster. The crack echoed, and at that moment the goblin exploded, surrounded by a brilliant red aura. Iron was shocked, realizing the big mess that was happening. "It's too late because you did this, crazy person." Chunsu was standing there, starting to drool while she screamed in despair. "There's no time to waste. The application has to be canceled now." Right after that blow, Chunsu fainted, causing Iron to panic, already unconscious. Meanwhile, the red energy disappeared, giving way to an even angrier goblin. The knowledge she had learned spun frantically in her head. When a summoned beast loses control, its attributes increase. This is called berserk, and I can still handle it for now. However, before Iron could come up with a plan, the creature lunged at her too fast. If it weren't for the instincts that had already saved her, she would have been crushed. This was no ordinary summoned beast. She stepped back, raising dust underfoot. Finally, Irene managed to get to a safe distance, but the tension still lingered, cold sweat trickling down. The analysis of the situation left a chill in her stomach. The berserk no longer recognized its master, and the goblin began to approach Chunsu, confirming all her fears. But at the last second, a girl appeared and grabbed the goblin, her heart turning. However, seconds later, the goblin sent the boy flying as if he were paper. Irene immediately used her summoner's power, calling the Lamba bird and catching the boy just in time. That goblin, possessed by hatred, launched the attack. She wasn't worried as everything crumbled. Now that the protection had gone away, she was determined not to let the goblin escape. The boy's attack was enough to wake him up. With its massive body, the goblin roared, ready to attack, as if it were being guided by its master. Unfortunately, the girl couldn't take advantage of the situation and was kicked, landing face down on the ground. The surprise left Irene stunned at the monster causing all the chaos. Despite the shove, it couldn't reach Chunsu. It seemed to realize that Irene was the true obstacle and decided to attack her, screaming in fury. When the ferocious creature approached, Irene's experience did not waver. She summoned Gigas, and then the spirit of the earth, Gigas, appeared with mountainous areas, ready for action. The goblin, before Gigas, showed not a shred of fear. In extreme rage, the goblin clenched its fist. Channeling all the power, he launched a furious blow without any panic. Gigas absorbed the impact, standing firm. They trembled from the force. What happened next was even crazier. Right behind what seemed to be just a normal hit, suddenly Gigas's body began to crack and then shattered, revealing Romeo right behind him. This left Iron, who was nearly at the front lines of the battle, absolutely horrified. He could hardly believe what he was seeing. The damage was simply insane. If that summoning was not canceled immediately, the situation could end very badly. Realizing there was no way around the problem, she decided, "Run away from here!" Quickly, with the speed of his teleportation, Romeo managed to disappear from the goblin's sight, leaving Uncle Whisper furious, who kept jumping back and forth, angrily pounding the stone ground. Energy was radiating from his body, making even the fragments of stone float. With a sharp mind, he grabbed two massive stones, ready to attack with all his might. Despite Romeo being airborne, he had to deal with the considerable impact of the goblin. At that moment, Iron solemnly declared, "Thanks to you, Romeo." While accelerating as fast as he could, Romeo continued to fly at high speed, even with his body vulnerable to injury. The insane goblin was doing very well, breaking stones left and right. He seemed to have evolved, managing to wield a weapon like a baseball bat. A powerful strike was dealt, aimed directly at Romeo. The goblin appeared to have anticipated every move, determined to take Romeo down. Iron's escape plan crumbled into smoke and dust, with Romeo's feathers flying, while Chunsu remained unconscious. Her tone was laden with disdain. "How many times have I told you to stop being so annoying? Didn't I?" She reached out to grab Chanzo and, surprisingly, managed to. Then, the two let themselves fall through the air. With their bodies plummeting, thick smoke stirred, and Iron had to bear a monstrous weight. The goblin observed, very intrigued by the scene. He was on a high, dragging step by step and ensuring that the prey wouldn't escape. Meanwhile, Aspis was buzzing with excitement at the scene. "Look, the goblin is on fire and doesn't even care." He continued to speak. His sword, imbued with eternal fire, exploded in flames. Game appeared running, unable to contain the panic. The leader of the group, this guy tanked the attack and is still standing firm, calm as a cucumber. He made a face that suggested he had to make a decision. He is not like the other enemies we've faced before. Now is the time for me to step in and give you support. Shut up and just stand there watching as always. I'm a genius with an IQ of 160 and I'm just observing. The anger mixed with frustration within him was about to explode. As Aspes finally decided to attack, the goblin, on the other hand, was also thirsty for battle, roaring and preparing. The attacks clashed, creating a light as bright as the sun. It was unclear who emerged victorious, but the scene was filled with black smoke, and in that confusion, Aspes was ejected, who always thought of himself as the tough guy. The spectators were in shock. Oros had to intervene. Gemi was paralyzed. Upon hearing that, maximum damage total. The winner of the battle was the goblin. Enjoying his victory, he trembled and commented that if a player takes damage beyond their maximum HP, they cannot survive and faint instantly. Tears streamed down Geme's face, the group leader, as he screamed in despair, but suddenly a warm voice echoed, "You can see this is already lost!" Aspas, who should have been defeated, was there shouting, leaving Game in disbelief. "What? How are you still alive?" But the guy just smiled without answering. "Hey, genius, all you did was babble, right? Do you have any strategy to deal with the monster that only needs one hit?" Gemi tried to keep his composure and offered an analysis of the situation. He then asked if the best strategy wouldn't be to flee. "It's the best option." He turned his sharp gaze back to the run. "Winning is impossible, but you can try to land a decent hit, man." A final fighting spirit concluded, "You can't win, but maybe you can land. A strong punch, right?" And just like that, the eternal flame was lit, with him shouting, "Let's wrap this up quickly." Amidst the sea of fire, goblins and humans were all there. Jaimin shouted from afar, "No one is stupid enough to attack first, got it?" He thought the guild leader's attack was nothing compared to the supreme damage of that monster. While I already carried within me the feeling that it was pure madness to attack alone, he wondered what kind of normal skill was so overpowering that it was impossible to measure its level. The buff skill of the leader Everflame pierced armor and dealt direct damage. If it were a powerful strike, there might be a chance, but it was just a strike. Nearby, a goblin was laughing wickedly in the midst of the flames. He pressed his hand onto the ground with all his might. Then the goblin advanced, laughing terrifyingly. Already in me, he thought again, realizing that advancing alone was sheer stupidity. But that stubborn guy wouldn't back down until he got his revenge. Just hit. If it didn't work, he would retreat. With that thought, he gritted his teeth and activated the professor's skill. The object that Jaime threw to the ground reacted and formed a rod around him. Sharp little spikes sprouted all around. He continued channeling his power, implanting the repulsion field. Deep down, Jamin's inner self roared, and everyone should obey. On the system panel, the message appeared. Freeze the opponent's movement for up to 8 seconds. The higher the level, the shorter the time. He shouted, "This is the moment!" Aspis, ready to attack, stood before the now frozen goblin. He positioned himself and said, "I thought you had danced this time. I have to admit, you are strong, but I am much stronger." He finished channeling to use 2 skills, 9 lives and berserker. He struck the goblin with an attack, dealing nearly 350,000 damage. The frozen goblin suffered the strike of Aspis's flaming sword. Before the blow could hit, the boy managed to move again. Jamin frowned in frustration, thinking that he could still move. Less than 2 seconds later, and the crazy guy was already awake. From the other side, the goblin struck hard with his hammer onto the ground. He activated the professor's skill, teleporting players within the machinery area with a 1-minute cooldown. I groaned that the level difference was too great. Running like a madman would only lead to a ridiculous death. What era was this that still had some idiot risking life and death for this dull game? Upon hearing the shout, everyone around started to whisper, and they weren't wrong. Did you see the crazy guy who dealt 300,000 damage and still got back up as if nothing happened? You jump in and then disappear? Isn't that shameful? This silly event is just for the goblins to warm up. Who in their right mind would drag a divine boss into a fight? Then everyone rushed to flee. Damn, the guy was leaving. Another said he was leaving too. Probably everything would be settled when they logged in again, later. Then they said to forget it, that they were already tired of playing. In one corner, someone was standing with arms crossed and said to hurry up. They really couldn't face that whole crowd. Charlotte retorted that he was making sense today. She said that even if he wanted to fight, she wouldn't support him. Suddenly, while Charlotte tried to exit the game, she noticed something. Her eyes widened and she screamed to wait. Don't tell me it's you. She smiled triumphantly, saying, bingo. She was just fooling her. A system notification popped up indicating a login block. Charlotte, about to finalize the logout, yelled in frustration to wait a full 10 minutes. Hours before he could say anything else, she was disconnected from the game. In another corner, Aspis smiled wickedly. He walked with the golden sword over his shoulder and said it was a crazy dream. The damage was really hitting his health, which was already halfway down a bar. Giving up now would be a huge waste, don't you think? Shouting from afar, he said, "You're not going to give up, are you, stubborn one? You can only use freeze movement once with a 1-minute cooldown. Besides, they still hadn't analyzed his attack patterns." Suddenly, he calmed down and said 2 words. Aspis looked and saw a large boulder coming towards him and shouted that they were throwing stones, directly hitting his face. The goblin kept attacking fiercely. In another corner, Oros was firing his weapon incessantly. The sounds of gunfire and explosions echoed, but Aspis was silent. He looked in the direction of the bullet. Aspis thought there was no time to react. Oros ducked and laughed, saying it was pure luck. He panicked and shot, not expecting to hit. Hearing that, Aspis thought it was funny to shoot with a gun. He remembered having warned not to stay in the way, just don't get in my way. You replied, hey, please, don't worry. Oros smiled and went for it. The 2 young men raced forward like lightning. Oros attacked first, stepping and jumping as he fired. The goblin smiled slyly, seeing Oros in the air, and joked that it was too much, looking at the goblin's back, which was made of diamond. Oro marveled. Wait, he really didn't take damage from the attack? Angry, he turned his back and shouted. Unnoticed, Aspis advanced from behind, ready to strike. He dealt a blow from the back, causing over 400,000 damage. An explosive scene unfolded. Geminum was stunned, thinking, what the hell is happening in this battle? Why aren't these guys retreating? He then looked at Oros, who proudly raised his weapon amidst the flames. It was hard to see the goblin. Suddenly, he charged forward, raising his hammer and shouting, "Scene change!" Chuso suddenly screamed, raising his hand towards his head, groaning that he had a headache. What the hell just happened? Chuso looked at the ground. His hand was still wearing the gauntlet and was gripping something that made him exclaim it was something soft. Squeeze it, and said it was so soft. He loved it. Irene arrived and witnessed the scene. Her face darkened. She recalled a bad memory and murmured that the guy was awake. Kim Shil-soo looked up upon hearing someone call his name. Isn't she the one who was with the real cat? Boss? Irene shouted loudly to stop. Don't squeeze anymore. She crossed her arms and asked, do you know the goblin that's following you? He raised his face and asked why Irene scolded him, saying he didn't know what they had just done. He used a direct attack on the goblin. Have you thought about the pain of hurting someone like this? Please run and dispel the summon now. After finishing speaking, he answered quietly that he didn't know. Irene, stunned, couldn't help but ask again. What? Uncle Sue, with all the strength he had, screamed that he had no idea how to do it. Moreover, he had never seen such a resource since he started playing. She was a bit surprised by this information. You know, you mean his profession is summoner, right? If he can summon, there should be a way around this. He immediately shot back that it wasn't. Apparently, there was nothing more to say. The one who wants to get to you the most is me. Irene, filled with anger, exclaimed, Hey, how can he talk like that? What if that goblin gets hurt? I smiled sarcastically. Hurt, because he keeps butting in since that day. Hurting others unintentionally is bad, but intentionally hurting is being a scoundrel. In this life, those two are the types who hurt or are about to get hurt. A little better. Then he shouted crazily to worry about keeping safe. The goblin's mind is fine. His body is not hurt. He is very resilient. As soon as he finished speaking, something flew behind Kiyasu. He looked around, lost, following the direction of the beam of light, and saw something being knocked down, causing almost 800,000 damage. Wow, an absurd damage. Chiasu was completely stunned and confused. The goblin, after unleashing the attack, immediately took a step back. He exclaimed in surprise, so that was hidden all along? The goblin was knocked down with a single hit, causing massive destruction. After being thrown far away, the goblin still managed to hold on and land softly on his feet. After a while, the creature lunged forward like a rocket. Seeing that, the character said, Still not satisfied? Fine, I'll put an end to this now. Then he used the skill Fire Knight, Eternal Flame. Suddenly, a red notification appeared. You ran out of spiritual energy. Upon hearing this, he was stunned and shouted, What? The goblin was still running at a dizzying speed. He had depleted so much that he dropped the sword. The goblin jumped on him, grabbing his face and blocking his vision. Jaime used the skill reposition, teleporting the character away. Soon after, he shouted angrily, "What are you doing?" Jaime advanced, roaring, "You said you would win!" Then he asked why he dropped the sword. Then he used all his strength to punch the character's leg and shouted, "Fight until it's over!" He was the type who always won, as he always said, "If you can't win, at least survive." Sometimes it felt like a moth flying into a flame with tears flowing. Why don't we just run away from here? Who would risk their life for a game? Aspaz stared blankly at his friend, raised his hand to cover the boy's face and said, "Shut up." He said that screaming like that is just admitting defeat. Aspaz then turned to Oros and said, "Hey, shot caller, we are retreating. You can stay if you want, but if you die, I won't be responsible." He calmly replied, "No, I also want to end this here. This group is causing more trouble than fun." Aspas wondered, "What group are you talking about?" And in the distance, a figure was running towards, them, kicking up a cloud of dust. It was Xiaosu, cursing as he ran, followed by a bunch of goblins. Back to the scene with Irene, Chihiro thought, the goblins suffered more than 700,000 damage to be exact. He bit his nails, thinking, this is really dangerous. If he dies, Chihiro's life will hit rock bottom. After thinking, Xiaosu got up mumbling, "First, I need to call him back. He'll have to use the call command." Irene wondered, "Call back?" She quickly advised, "Don't. Call him back here. He'll put you in danger again." Without thinking, "Let's calm the fury first. There's no need to summon him again." He asked, "Is there another way?" Irene replied, based on what she knew. The explosion must have been caused by the guild leader of the Black Flame in the city. When a subordinate's life reaches 0, they can't be summoned back. Shu immediately objected. "Are you telling me to just let the Black Flame Guild kill him? And if he actually dies, can he still be called back?" Irene said, "Subordinates don't die, they just sleep and wake up later. They have no concept of life or death." She held Kyu's hand and continued, "Generally that's how it is, but you said your goblin can't be summoned again, so it's complicated." Hearing this, Chelsu shouted, "So you want me to bet my life on your words?" Irene realized what he meant. He clenched his fists and shouted, "That goblin is my own life. I can't even imagine what it would be like to return to reality without him. He would rather die than live without that." The more Xiaosu spoke, the more stunned Irene became. She could only look at the boy and wonder how this was possible. How can someone feel so much that they cry for an entity that is not themselves? If the master were him, death wouldn't be so tragic. I just remembered that neighbor of Chris from Everybody Hates Chris, who always said tragic. Then Irene gently took Chielsul's hand, acknowledging that she had hurt him. She sincerely said, "I'm sorry, Quintuso." He continued to calm her down, saying, "No matter what happens, I won't let your goblin die. We'll do everything we can together." Upon hearing this, he thought it was a good deal. Chuso went crazy again, shouting, "Don't interfere! If you can't bring him back, he didn't have time for that." Irene, super chill, said that after some analyses of the goblin that only had one life, she had the solution. Like a pet thrown into the jungle for a long time, the best way to win that wounded heart was to feed it. Suddenly, he had an idea and commented that food could work, but she quickly said it wouldn't be easy. Irene believed that if he put in everything, it would turn out well. He thought, damn, what is she saying? What he really wanted was to beat up her goblin. But now that he remembered, he could grab the goblin's attention with the skill, feed the goblin, and it would come running like crazy. Then he had another epiphany. Wow, he had never fed the creature at all until now. At that moment, he used the feed the goblin skill and conjured a sausage. He thought, yes, this could wake him up. In fact, it was the only way, and suddenly, he started running. Irene shouted, "Wait, if you already have food, why not call him back?" Then a goblin with a crazy, hungry look flew past her. Irene, completely stunned, saw the group of goblins running ahead. She thought, these goblins are aiming for Kimetsu. Meanwhile, Kimetsu ran as fast as he could. He looked back, and as soon as he turned his head, saw a goblin coming with a hungry expression. He handed back the sausage he was holding. The panel said it was a special sausage for goblins. The legend said it could even bring the goblin's wife back in a day. After that, Chuso's mind was filled with questions, and he cursed while running at full speed. Aspis saw that bunch of goblins and was in shock. And wondering what the hell was going on, hours later, he logged out. At that moment, already fleeing and grumbling, they must have felt something irresistible. If we don't escape soon, this is going to go badly. He had barely left, and, quote, hadn't reacted yet, but Chelsea had already blinked and run, creating some distance. He grabbed James's hand and with a throw, catapulted his friend into the air. After all this, quote, he was already completely tired, with only 1 HP left. He said, "What's up, Vice President?" And in the end, quote, he was crushed by the hungry goblins that came charging in. The system notification appeared. The currently connected player has died, and the guy simply disappeared into thin air. Shu Shu, with his head down, said desperately, "Are you planning to leave without telling me?" The goblin, despite being seriously damaged, still held firm. He extended the sausage he was crazy to deliver and said, "Look, this is your favorite sausage. I don't have time, just eat it." Right then, the goblin made a hungry face upon seeing the sausage. Chuso was starting to run out of options and thought, crap, this is the effect of rage. The guy is losing it. He nervously extended the sausage and shot back, "I mean, good job. This is your delicious high-quality sausage. Eat it." Chuso leaned closer and whispered, "This is really good." Just as the sausage was about to go into the goblin's mouth, out of nowhere, a storm of goblins appeared from behind. A horde of goblins rushed in as if there were no tomorrow, knocking Chuso down and creating chaos. They were so crazed they seemed to be flying, trampling each other, accordion style. 1 goblin, 2 goblins, and a pile of trash. Man, it turned into quite a mess. Seeing they were trampling him, he could only curl up his head and protect himself. And then he thought, damn, these hellish goblins are useless trash. Already cursing in his mind, greedy and selfish, and this huge crowd. Wow, the guy was right. These miserable ones almost reached their limit, and he shouted, "Better die a few more times, it's not a big deal." But the speech, though tempestuous, made no difference. The goblins kept piling up, forming a towering mountain worthy of respect, pushing and trampling just to stick to the single piece of sausage on top. The pile of goblins nearly turned into a shadow over the nightlight. Suddenly, that dark pile erupted with power, sending everything flying. Goblin trees were tossed as a system notification sounded. Rare rank, pale blue steel armor, with a probability of activating the skill Heavenly Earth Shatter upon being hit. Chuso was completely stunned by this. This armor has powers like that too. He fell straight down, while the screen still displayed that all the goblins who trusted and followed you had been completely eliminated. A goblin noise echoed in the background. The Lord was extremely pleased and earned a goblin point. A strong green goblin kicked a large block of rock. That kick caused a chain reaction of deep explosions in the cave. Chuso landed on the ground, quite dignified. The well he fell into emanated an immortal and powerful energy. Then, a cautious goblin carefully lifted Chuso out of the well. Chuso looked and called the goblin, "Hey, wake up!" He stuck out his tongue and made some noise, which left Chuso slightly irritated. "Hey, you're back, you damn dog. Are you hungry? You gotta let me know, right?" Then, out of nowhere, a delicious sausage flew from the empty ground. The goblin dropped Chuso and happily ran to grab the sausage. He was in shock and couldn't stop blaming himself. That's despicable. After a while, the system screen finally showed, "Mission complete. Goblin village destroyed. Goblins, 18,700 and 83, level 30, reward 350. Suddenly, a woman appeared out of nowhere beside Uncle Sue. She leaned in and whispered. The frenzy dissipated. Thank goodness. The cold voice of the blue-haired girl asked, "Did you defeat all those goblins?" Chuso, irritated, prepared for a fight. "What's it to you? Are you my mother?" She sighed deeply and said, "What are you talking about? I'm just worried about you, okay?" He replied, "Straightforward." She paused and asked, "Is this goblin attack your fault?" Then he denied, confused. "No, not at all." She interrupted, swallowed a bit of saliva, and then spoke. Chuso stood up, paying attention to the explanation. Goblins are usually just monsters down there. Even with hundreds or even thousands of goblins in the area, those guys can't even tickle the village players. And even if your HP drops dramatically and you take 1 hit, relax. You can revive just fine, with no penalties. Of course, we can't brush off their attack on the innocents. It's their fault, so give it all back to them. His words were so heavy that they made the guy break out in a cold sweat. Chuso was bursting with rage, shouting that he knew this was going to happen anyway. At that moment, an explosion went off on the other side. Meanwhile, the blue-haired boy, quite skeptical, was looking on and wondering what the hell was this. Then, someone had the brilliant idea to move closer to the edge of the cliff to get a better view of the other side. The young blue-haired kid looked down all terrified, thinking, what a deep bottom is this? At the bottom of the pit was a pile of gold, silver, and lost goblin junk. with a sign saying, "Welfare Bottom. Take what you need." Cut to a closed room where a frantic discussion was taking place. It seemed that this time everything went smoothly. Someone dropped the famous line, "That's what I heard." Finally, one of the people in that room was pleading, "Report the results on G67 already. Hurry up, man, faster for God's sake." The old man next to him, without any nervousness, added, "G67, injury level 9999, confirmed with maximum limit." Everyone was in shock, frozen. Even the toughest criminals hadn't reached this level before. And on the screen appeared the image of a goblin with red eyes who heartily said, "Humans always have a bit of kindness, and that's what we can trigger. But remember, sometimes they lose control." "Honestly," another interrupted, "but come on, G67 isn't human at all, kid. I mean, just perfect for a disaster." And the other was only able to stutter in shock. That voice continued sarcastically, "But wow, this is really quite an achievement." The cold man beside him said, "In the end, how many people had to suffer for this to happen?" After a bunch of attempts, a savior finally showed up. He hesitated a little, but asserted that such a perfect goblin could only be G67, the one that most resembled a goblin so far. And he continued his intense analyses. "If this being starts locking power left and right, my god, it's going to be a mess. By the way, that should never be allowed. It's extremely important to keep this thing under control. Anyway, it can't go wrong. It's a guaranteed success." The old man with the white beard frowned and said, "This is the only way we could stay alive." About the name Iscariot, someone at the table was calmly moving the mouse, clicking on everything on the screen. Notifications had been blowing up all week, reporting a goblin attack at the Phoenix Bazaar. Good thing the goblins were low level, otherwise things would go downhill. Chusu was in the fight, thinking that if the gods helped, everything would be resolved peacefully. Apparently, no one knew he was the real culprit behind that mess. He remembered that following that cat's advice had been the right move. Now he could dodge by himself without facing the wrath of the players. The screen refreshed, showing live subsidy events at the Phoenix Bazaar, featuring the level 35 Wind Mage. The person in front of the screen couldn't take it anymore and wondered who the character starring there was, massaging his forehead in frustration. 10 years of life wasted. Damn it, tricked by a monster, that goblin disaster. What the hell? What kindness is this, for God's sake? Chuchu was there, covering his face, thinking, "This goblin gave me a headache just because I didn't prepare the right food for him." But honestly, he felt he had become the master of that damned goblin. Summoning beasts, my friend. And the fool had no idea about this class or how to care for a pet. A girl with green hair appeared on the screen, leading him to think, "Next time I see that cat's owner, I need to ask. She's so important, capable of summoning a sparrow or something like that. She definitely has that expert vibe." And Sul was totally awestruck, even fascinated. But hold on, why would such a powerful girl help me? There's something off about this story from the start. The girl with green hair decided to break the ice and started a conversation. So cute, he thought, somewhat indifferent. She immediately called him cute and, with a little smile, asked, "What's your name?" The question caught Chuso by surprise. She really wanted to know his name. He looked at the screen and thought, "She's so beautiful. Maybe I should try to flirt." Suddenly, Chuso turned around and scoffed, "Get lost, you bastard." The bald guy introduced himself as Sung Riel. He sent the crazy guy away and a second later turned his face and asked, "Who are you and why are you here? Are you following me?" Sung Riel frowned. "Seriously now, you look worried, huh? Of course coming here was the best decision in the world." Chukshu curled his lip in disdain. "Are you looking for a fight or what? How can you act like you understand me? How is that possible?" My god, the crazy guy didn't stop there and still spoke slowly. "Ah, it must be because of the goblin." His eyes widened in astonishment and curiosity. "That's true, but how did he know?" The royal blood didn't give it away and answered calmly, "Of course I know. How could I not know? Your summoned beast is about to lose its strength. So you're worried, huh?" The questions left Chukshu even more surprised. "Are you saying you didn't know about this?" Sungriel looked at him and said, "I heard they discovered a critical bug related to the summoned beasts. A pet will be available soon. I hope it's nothing serious. Just because I'm freaking out, but this goblin is stronger than usual. It's not because of any bug." His words hit directly at Chukshu's psychological defenses, leaving him frozen quickly. Chukshu jumped up and shouted, "Are you serious? That bug fix is real? Where did you get that information, man?" As soon as he finished, the person next to him also spoke up, and the conflict was just beginning. A new announcement from the Sky Portal appeared, and the two began to argue. The topic of conversation was some update. Well, nothing too crazy, just that in a week there will be a pet to fix a bug. Those words left our hero Chukshu speechless. He was paralyzed, incredulous. Cut to a scene with Chukshu sitting in a wild field, somewhat lost. He was bored, holding a stone and staring at it. Soon, Chukshu looked defeated and almost let the stone slip from his hands. With every passing second, his helplessness grew. Yet, from time to time, he clenched his fists as if deciding that something had to change. Suddenly, Chukshu stood up and poured out his heart. Damn it! A goblin from afar seemed to understand and responded with its characteristic noise. That moment when he almost broke down, wondering why it had to be now. Shushu looked ahead, lost in thought, thinking, my goblin is totally abnormal. Now, if the critical bug that the company detected is in the summoner, that goblin in front of me must be the cause of it. Imagining this, Chuso became even more furious, gritting his teeth. Only 7 days until the pet. Oh dear. He didn't want to go back to that miserable life. His eyes were red with anger. He needed to find a way to earn 20 billion at any cost. Suddenly, the memory of the gold hit him, reminding him that just because he had killed 30 goblins, it wasn't a reason to feel self-important. The system screen displayed, Mission Complete, Goblin Village Extermination. Goblins, 783 out of 30. Reward, 350G. While Uncle Sul held the gold, the NPC taunted, "Stop being so arrogant!" His anger surged, and he shouted, "Stop bothering me and give me the next mission quickly. I don't have time for this right now. Who do I need to punch?" This time, the NPC had no response, but wore a sarcastic smile. The system screen updated to accept the next mission. You need to reach level 40. Damn. Jutsu looked at the system notification. His frustration only grew. Miserable. Who would have thought that level would be a problem? He had managed to kill 10,000 goblins and only leveled up once. Later, at the Adventurers Guild, while everyone was chatting, he thought that instead of beating up worthless monsters, he could take a mission and earn bonus rewards. As he observed around, he noticed his expression starting to darken. Damn it, all the good missions had already been taken. Then, his eyes lit up when he spotted a special mission. Chuso was immediately drawn to a mission that rewarded 10,000 gold. He read the details. Demon Mask, level 36, Lost Ruin, Underground Lair, 10. After considering it, he realized that the Demon Mask mission was undoubtedly the best one still available. Determined, he took the paper and thought, this is it. I'm going to accept. Just then, his eyes met Ryo Anin, a fighter exactly at level 36 as the mission required. As soon as she saw his face, she clearly fell out of her chair and screamed, "Are you kidding me? That damn psycho again?" When he saw her face, one idea crossed his mind. What if she's not that girl from last time? Hearing this, he shouted, "What's this talk about a psychopathic pervert? If people hear this, what will they think of me?" Gradually, everyone around began to recognize and shout, "Look at the perverted psycho!" He seemed to be drooling over the mission, as if he were choosing the next big prank. The kid really flipped out. Just looking at his face, you can tell he's the runaway. Chuso was listening to all this while the insults surrounded him like, "I always heard that crazy is definitely something that isn't right." Then someone pulled out the mission paper and shouted, "No more fighting!" Then Ray smiled and said, "Why don't you team up with that old lady?" Seeing the delicious mission being snatched away, Shusu exploded with rage, shouting, "Hey, you old hag! Who do you think you are stealing my mission? I was the first to sign up for this." The old lady ignored him and pointed to a part of the paper, mocking him. "Anyway, didn't you see the small print? You seem like you didn't notice the little warning at the bottom." Her finger was pointing to tiny letters that no one would be able to see unless they surpassed normal vision, and it hit Chuso like a punch to the gut. 3 people? What do you mean? Why do I have to take 2 extra fates? After thinking for a moment, he pointed to Raiwanan, who was still dazed on the ground. She looks like she could be useful. In fact, Chuso despised the old lady in front of him, while to her, well, she was just an old grouch. But okay, Ray didn't care about that disdain. She just threw out some additional reminders. If they didn't want me to go along, they wouldn't need to insist. Someone from the group around assessed. Uncle Sue, a girl, was startled and shot back. Wait, isn't she the crazy one who hung out with Rankamun's daughter?" Hearing this, Susu could only curse mentally, seeing those idiots ignoring the mission. He thought, "Man, I don't have time to argue now." Soon he pulled the okay way back and shouted, "We're together. I'll take this old lady on the mission with us." And Sul looked at Raiwanan and affirmed, "And the last spot is hers." She didn't want this to happen, trembling while begging, "No, please, no." Cut to a new scene, where Raiwanan was facing a monstrous beast. After defeating the beast, she couldn't believe she was on this mission, wondering how she got to this point. She looked at Chuso and thought angrily, "Stuck with this cocky guy again." Meanwhile, Chuso was shouting non-stop, Hey, at this rate, the mission is going to drag on until next year. This is going to be eternal. Raiwanan, the ninja, couldn't take it anymore and shouted back, I can't run any faster. She turned and pointed to the level, 35 and 36 bears in sight, asking furiously, if you have eyes, look at their levels. He was wondering if he could defeat them all at once. Fantastic, huh? A real suicide show. Never mind, he thought. Even if they were reported for summoning insects, who cared? Suddenly, a green figure appeared and the group started shouting, Goblin! A bluish-green silhouette flew straight at Raiwanan, who froze in fear. Probably spurred on by her scream, it charged forward. It was so close to Raiwanan that, in an instant, a mysterious flame appeared and turned it to ashes. All right, the king unleashed his fireball skill and tried to reassure them. Leave those trash monsters to the old lady. But Chuso wasn't thrilled with the idea and grumbled, Hey, old lady, don't block my path again. Not only the goblins, but those furry bears from earlier were also charging rapidly. Before he could act, a small goblin hand pushed him back in front of the astonished bears. He fell over, the goblin looking at the sack and letting out a triumphant smile. Seeing the scene, Raiwanan shouted, It was the same goblin from before. Then, trembling, she asked Chuso for help. She wondered why that goblin was there again. Not caring about her fear, he replied calmly, Because my summoned beast, he explained. Got it? Raiwanan was in shock, absorbing the terrifying truth. A summoned monster. Chuso casually declared, I am the summoner of this supreme monster that devours everything in motion. He, facing the furry bears, showed even more pride. Just don't block my path. Step aside and watch. Raiwanan, curious, asked the old lady, Hey, Miss Ray, why did you sneak in to play Heaven's Door? The old lady lowered her gaze and explained that she started playing because of her husband. Taiwanan, excited, commented that she plays this game because her husband dragged her into it. It seems so romantic. Ray, confused, asked, Romantic, what's that about? She was extremely curious and wanted to know more. What other man is her husband? What character does he play? Ray sighed deeply and hesitated, but something unexpected appeared and left the goblin agitated. It started making strange and supernatural noises. Chusu, looking ahead, smiled arrogantly. It's you, the legendary monster of the demon mask. Raiwanan, worried, thought, I thought it was just a mask, but what is this coming out? She noticed Ray's strange behavior. Around her, he had his eyes closed, looking sad. Don't get close to that! Her eyes were filled with indescribable sadness as she looked at him apathetically. Meanwhile, the old woman was sitting next to her husband's gigantic gaming podium, whispering complaints. Having fun, huh? He used to complain about everything, but now he's glued to the game. The warrior said he was bored. I can't even leave, might as well play this. She didn't pay attention and offered a slice of apple. Here, I peeled this apple for you. Eat it. Looking at him, lying inert on the podium, she thought, thanks to the government that gave us this for old people to pass the time. A voice replied, shut up and go somewhere else. What is she doing here? OK Ray was in a cherry blossom scene gently, explaining, I borrowed my friend's device to get here. This place looks exactly like the real thing. He pointed to her name and mocked, look at that account name. Can't even get the name right. You can already tell she's an old lady. OK Ray, confused, asked, is it that obvious? The warrior felt powerless and replied, the name is right above your head. Anyone can see that. OK Ray looked up and, after a while, his face turned red. The old woman's face became embarrassed. What the hell is this? His name sounds cheesy and still a bit sensitive. The eyes behind that mask shone intensely, staring at the prey in front of him. Raiwanan became concerned for OK Ray and hurriedly said, this is dangerous, ma'am. She stood frozen, watching the flaming sword about to come down on her. Okay, Ray strained to speak. Sorry, guys, you're going to have to help some old people. Hardly had he finished speaking when he created a purple sphere of power, a top-tier skill. The sphere was launched toward the masked demon, a dark bomb amid the smoke. Chukshu couldn't help but admire it. Damn, that skill is wicked. That old lady is really weighing in on this. As he spoke, okay, Ray dashed. Past. The demon's mask collided with Chukshu's face. The shadow of that monster enveloped the goblin, who gasped excitedly. Raiwanan was still stunned by what had just happened. She had just taken down that monster. Once the dust settled, they spotted a strange figure helping Cray to walk. Confused, he asked, Granny, who is that person? Without an answer, the group began to whisper names. I love Verka. Okay, Ray Park or Kree Raiwanan. She still couldn't process what she was seeing. She murmured, wondering if those two knew each other. Behind her, the goblin that had been standing still started to jump. Raiwanan noticed the strange behavior. She turned and asked, What's wrong, Gob? That's the ending she didn't see. Before he could finish the thought, what appeared before her left her paralyzed. It was Lin, the masked warrior. with a demonic face. Strangely, he had a bloated belly. A frantic chase ensued. Rayuanan herself screamed in fury, the feelings consuming her. The dark movements, as ominous as Chuso's future, echoed with explosions from the cursed cave. Rayuanan ran as if she were in a horror marathon, a look of terror on her face, tears streaming as she ran without looking back at Chuso, who was chasing her like a madman. She screamed, "I'm completely losing my mind. How I hate this game!" Right after that, Chuso, wearing that black mask, reached from behind and lightly poked her in the back, making her flinch. Suddenly, Rayuanan stopped abruptly. She turned and, in a deadly strike, kicked Chuso in the face, who had just yelled, "I told you to take off that mask, idiot!" The kick sent the mask flying far from Chuso's bruised face, who tried to see the mask falling. Rayuanan felt internally satisfied. The mask had fallen. A little damage was enough. No clean knockout, but the mask floating at noon after being kicked left her uneasy. This she knew well. The mask would target someone. Then she noticed the mask staring at her and felt a shiver, thinking that whoever was closest would be in trouble, and the feminine intuition sending alerts, of course. Immediately, the mask aimed at Chulso. The surroundings grew dark as she whispered, desperate, "Chulso, please," understanding at this moment. Chulso, who was minding his own business, felt queasy like a lost pregnant woman. The damn devil's mask regained its stance and shouted, "You fool! I saw everything! Why didn't you come help me?" Meanwhile, the fragile and weak Rayuanan transformed into a true tank, looking like an American fighter, staring at the sky and cursing life for not having worthy opponents. Chulso's face went pale. The muscular farmer's arms and the eye mask on Rayuanan left him utterly terrified. Then things got intense, and Chulso started to take steps back, quite nervous. Suddenly, a blinding flash occurred. Rayuanan was on fire, her toned muscles holding Chulso tight like a trunk against the wall. However, Chulso still tried to negotiate, stuttering, "Don't do this, we are brothers!" With everything controlled by the mask, Rayuanan saw this as a denial and punched him hard, splattering red blood. Realizing things had gotten serious, Chulso tried to summon his trump card, a Goblin. The system activated immediately, calling forth the Goblin's ability. Rayuanan seemed to clone into three, hitting and kicking Chulso, who, holding on tight, tried to protect himself by gritting his teeth. Chulso began to understand the problem. "Damn this cursed mask! It controls whoever wears it. No doubt I was weak before." He ordered the Goblin to absorb all the blows while commanding him to attack the mask directly. The Rayuanan controlled by the mask charged forward, and the Goblin raised the stone hammer. Before the Goblin could swing the hammer at the mask, she was torn from Rayuanan's face the moment Rayuanan took that axe. She flew straight into the sky, screaming, "Here, Chuso!" She wasn't faring better after losing her host. The mask charged again, making Chuso scream desperately, "Damn, she's back!" But the mask came on strong, trying to control the Goblin. But, unlucky for her, the Goblin's long nose got in the way. The mask rebounded, leaving the Goblin completely dizzy, probably embarrassed by his own nose. The Goblin looked down, lamenting, while the mask, realizing it couldn't take him over, switched targets. Seeing the mask aiming at him, Chuso summoned all his strength and ran like crazy. As he ran for his life, Chuso noticed people ahead and shouted, "What the hell are those monsters? Don't block my path!" From the front, OK-Ray turned to see Chuso running and made a joke. "Hey, don't come any closer, you dog." Of course, Chuso heard this and questioned himself. That old lady just called me a dog, didn't she? Then he noticed the man in black armor with a rather bizarre name on his back. Love Parker Cry, level 39 warrior. Surprised, he thought, "Wait, this sounds familiar." He remembered the mysterious god from the cave with the same name. Everything made sense at that moment. That name, the demon mask up there, is definitely Love Parker Cry. Then he looked at the old lady running, who could barely stand, with only a few teeth left in her mouth. Her nickname was OK Rai, a level 32 mage. Chuso reflected, thinking, "Okay, Rai, I think I'm deciphering the thing." He dashed toward her, shouting, "Damn, those two are siblings!" She, even with the passage of time, had surprising strength and shouted, "We are a couple, you idiot!" Chuso looked at the pale couple and commented, "I don't care what you are. What matters here is that you two tricked me, right? Damn, now I understand why you were with me on this mission." Chuso took off, leaving the old lady carrying her husband on her, back behind. Behind them, the mask, like a reaper after souls, followed them. The old man opened his eyes, groaning. Upon seeing his warrior awake, he was happy, asking if he was okay. The black mask, however, clung to her face. Freezing, the still weak warrior panicked, screaming, "Oh my God, what are you trying to do?" Then she let her husband fall grimly, and the warrior complained, "Oh, I'm not that bad. I'm probably good for the grave already." Looking back, the damned demon mask that had stuck to him like a debt collector had disappeared, leaving him confused. "The demon mask is no longer stuck to me." The old man began to rise, looking at his wife with a horrified expression. His face seemed to say, "Absolutely unbelievable." He murmured his wife's name. "Okay, king!" And like the warrior she was, she quickly turned to scold Chuso, the bastard commander. She said, "The young ones can handle this, but we old folks would surely die, you punk." And of course, this, after enduring 10 beatings from the cursed mask, made Chuso respond angrily. "Are you kidding me? The young ones can handle this? It seems like you want me to put the mask on you with a drawing on your face." And with his voice full of insolence, he exclaimed, "Stop being foolish, old man. Who allowed the kid to enter this game at this age? It's just a little mask control, like, relax, it's not the end of the world." Thinking of the 20-meter monster holding the warrior, Chuso moved on. The boy remembered, the monsters in this game can jump out at any moment. It's trouble. And if you get sick, who's going to be responsible? These kids are super chill about the situation. If it's bad for the older ones, why did he get involved in this stuff? Rayonim appeared running, a goblin chasing her. Kim Chuso said quietly, "Those aren't my favorite goons." He was stunned to see Rayonim completely intact without a scratch and asked, "Wait, how are you still alive after taking a hit like that from the goblin?" Raiwanan, extremely out of breath, explained that no one on the team really loses blood unless they enter the stupid PK mode. "But why did you run like a madman?" Jushu replied, somewhat disinterested, and pointed ahead. "Didn't you know that old lady trolled us? She wanted someone to wear the mask, not her husband." He said, "I just want to escape and take revenge." First, the demon mask stuck to her instead of him. Raivoni was horrified to hear that. Suddenly she shouted, "Hey Kim, Chuso!" Then she asked him, "Have you ever wanted to be a secret goblin?" Chuso forced a smile and shot back, "What the hell is that? Why would I want to be a goblin?" Seeing him defend himself quickly, she explained, No, that boring goblin. I mean the goblin you summoned. Don't tell me you've never wanted to be him." Chuso thought for a moment, scratching his chin, and murmured, "Lately, he has been ignoring me." But after a while, he said, "Whatever. The thing is, he is strong, but I can't control him all the time. Sometimes I think it would be easier if I were a goblin too." Changing the subject, noticing Rayonim asking strange questions, he asked, "Hey, why are you asking this now?" Rayonim didn't answer and just interrupted, "Hey, when I put on the mask, how will I look?" Chuso replied firmly, "Like a certified lunatic." Rayonim got angry immediately and raised her hand to punch Chuso. "I'm not asking about your appearance," he indirectly replied. "You suddenly got stronger like a monster, looking intense." Rayonim calmed down, sighed, and said, "I knew that. I think the mask transforms you into the version you desire. I like to train, but my body never gets into shape, so I keep wondering if I had more muscles. But I don't need to look as fierce as I do now." And she remembered the incredible warrior and thought, "That old guy is short. Yes, he must be insecure about his height." It became clear why he looked so tall. When I met Sue and Hawanan, they looked in the same direction. If your theory is right, then that elder, Rayonin nodded with a 1. The blacksmith had his back turned, trembling with nervousness. Wait a minute. Tears were streaming down his face. He was scared, but there he was, standing firm, holding the sword and saying, "I'll save you now." He looked at the woman in front of him, controlled by the mask, kneeling on the floor with a dazed look on her face. Darkness swirled around. Chuso, in his confusion, thought she wished to have a child. Behind, the young couple nervously awaited the doctor's diagnosis, and, again, no pregnancy. They held hands, not understanding, as the doctor suggested. "Why don't you think about giving up?" A field of golden flowers shone, everything beautiful under the sunlight. The husband, disheartened, picked a blue flower. Trying to hold back tears, he said, "Let's lift that head up, dear," and saw his wife crying with her face in her hands. He exclaimed, "Oh no, crying again. After all, some people are born infertile. It's not her fault. And why cry?" He gave her shoulder a pat, trying to comfort her. "It's all right. We can still be happy together even if we don't have children." He pulled her head onto his shoulder and gently stroked her hair. "One day you'll have a mischievous son, and you'll also give birth to a little daughter. Isn't that fun? Or do you have to worry?" He spoke gently. "You're still a child to cry like that. Let me see. You really are a child." Before him stood his beautiful wife with a flower in her hair. "No, but I will take care of you forever, my treasure." Those memories stayed with the warrior forever. Tears formed in his eyes as he watched his wife with her belly growing uncontrollably. The fright echoed. "Let's get out of here as soon as possible. That thing is too fast. We won't be able to catch it." A little one hesitated, worried, looking at the two elders. "Wait, we can't leave the two of you here alone. She's been through this mess and felt super empathetic. I felt the mask sticking to me and couldn't do anything. It felt like I was trapped in a dungeon. I couldn't get out. The feeling made the fear grow, as if I were experiencing sleep paralysis. I was powerless, afraid that this would never end." Her voice trembled. That old man had gone through all of this until now. It seemed that his hidden determination finally came to the surface. "Who, Chusu? Just save those two." "What? Where did he go? Looks like the guy made a run for it." Changing the subject, she shouted for him to stop. "Hey, Kim Chusu!" He just moved his fingers and nodded. "Don't tell me you're going to use that mask because of them." He had never said that. It was simple. "Destroy that!" Chusu grumbled, getting irritated with the situation. He noticed that hunting other monsters would give him more experience. He decided he would keep all the rewards, including that special loot. He winked upon hearing "unique monster." This eccentric behavior confirmed that she had been successful. Monsters like this are rare, it's no coincidence. Taking a closer look, the information about the mask was indeed different. It was a level 36 ghost mask. Have you ever seen a monster with that color? By name alone, the experience and the items that drop will surely be incredible. The reward was monstrous, he thought. There was no turning back now. He shouted, "The Goblin!" He could only lament for the little green creature before a man who looked like a lunatic. That smile, hard to describe. I only know it was terrifying. "Let's go." And the nest was perplexed by his behavior. "Hey, what's that whip?" That goblin seemed to be in a panic. He shouted like a dictator, "Just watch and see." It was the only way to deal with that damned mask. That item was cursed, and if used without lifting the curse, things were going to get real messy. Sue felt uneasy, but he always had a plan B. The Fury would enhance all the summoning abilities. She would lose her head, but a sausage would sort things out. Sure, he worried about random effects, but after all, they were just random. Just keep a cool head and everything would be fine. Then he charged ahead, whip in hand. I, Kimetsu, always give my all in bets. That crazy look would make anyone want to back off. As soon as the system announced, adverse status weakened, damage received temporarily increased, Chuso grinned wickedly. He immediately gave orders to the creature that was now glowing red. "So, Goblin, see that old lady's mask? Kill it, and I'll give you a piece of thick sausage. Come on, little devil." Suddenly she jumped, grabbing his hair and trying to bite his neck. "What the hell is this?" The goblin summoning ability was activated. He almost screamed, "That side! Damn!" The goblin spun through the air, aiming his leg at the old lady. His speed nearly hit the mask. The warrior cried out in pain, seeing his wife being attacked. He recovered after that blow. Good thing they were in the same group. He shouted, cutting her path in the last second. The mask shot in front of the old man, who was still gasping for breath. "Damn it!" High Warning gave a quick explanation, grabbed the old man's wife's hand and said, "Let's get out quick. We'll manage here." Then a glow lit up her face. Without a second thought, the warrior ran to help the old woman who was collapsing. "Stay awake. We need to leave now." The demonic mask was indeed fighting back. It was a true unique monster, but this time it wouldn't escape. The goblin crawled, showing its teeth in a snarl. It blinked, opened its mouth, and lunged forward. Hiwanin, wearing the mask, turned into a muscular girl and dodged at the last moment. She grabbed its leg and pulled with a pinpoint knee strike. Whether that hurt the goblin or not was unclear. Chuso stood agape, unable to believe what he was seeing. Not only did she dodge the goblin's charge, but she also counterattacked. After that strike, the goblin simply sat up and lifted its face, showing an expression of rage. Before acting, Raiwanin was in front of it with her leg raised at an incredible angle. The mask certainly gave an extraordinary power, a blow that shook the goblin. Well, at least it had no brain. Shisu sighed in relief, shocked. Fortunately, the goblin came out unscathed. He feared she might turn into some higher-level monster. Watching the fight, a strange feeling arose. Something was wrong, and he realized that the enraged goblin hadn't hit anything. With everything, his eyes were fixed on Hiwanin. Although she wasn't causing damage, her movements hit the goblin square in the face. The South breathed deeply, confused, thinking it wasn't her weakness, but the goblin's excessive strength. It was almost a miracle that the goblin had managed to crawl that far. Suddenly, a deafening noise echoed. The ground collapsed. taking the prize with it. And then, he shouted in despair, "Why did it end like this?" The elderly couple didn't even have time to support each other. Outside, the warrior drew his sword in the cave and, lost in thought, pressed Oakley's shoulder down. Oakley suddenly realized the situation and lunged forward, trying to protect his body. In a serious tone, he whispered, "Do you remember that time you said you would take care of me like a treasure forever?" Here, with time, it seemed she had forgotten that promise. He involuntarily wrapped his arms around her, despite the falling rocks. Chuso was grinding his teeth and couldn't stop cursing. "Who, Chuso? Can you hear me? As soon as you heard, you blamed the girl, as always. Where have you been? It's all your fault. I've seen your hand. Can you still move it? What nonsense is this? Anyway, there's a demonic mask over your hand. I'm stuck and can't move, so killing it is the solution. So, I'm not the only one trapped here, right?" Her hand clenched tightly around the mask that was sweating above him. "You're definitely dead, you crazy person. 100%. A punch only caused negligible damage. Take that punch, you bastard." Instantly, the mask shattered in the blink of an eye, with ridiculous pressure. Rai, the Anin, smiled slightly. She died with that little damage, huh? Her level rose from 36 to 39. That thing was a joke. She even died with a light touch. Chuso also gained experience and leveled up from 38 to 41. The problem was that his face was stuck in stone, making communication even harder. "She's dead, right? Hey, my huge reward." He began to frantically feel around. Where the hell is it? Chuso was in a crazy anxiety and frustrated. Damn, he had to grab this before someone else did. Suddenly, a strange roar echoed in every crevice around him. Guys, what is that noise? He could feel the thing getting closer. A goblin appeared out of nowhere, rubbing its filthy face against his and letting out a shrill scream. Within minutes, it let out 3 consecutive curses. Damn, I forgot about that bastard. The guy was still in a rage. Chuso decided to use his summoner abilities to feed the goblin. He urgently needed to give it a sausage. The problem was that his body wasn't responding. Damn my hands. But the goblin's behavior was really strange compared to before. Why wasn't it attacking? Could it not see him because of the darkness? Then, Chuso decided to take a closer look. The goblin's bulging eye. Wait, what's happening to this guy's eyes? What the hell is this? What's going on with those weird eyes? He looked at it, wondering if it could also be under the effects of madness. It stopped right in front of the right eye, and, looking closely, he realized it didn't look like a common goblin at all. It was like a tube with teeth and 2 blade-like tentacles. Let out a scream of terror. Damn, the goblin's terrifying smile scared him so much he nearly wet himself. Then, Anin became worried about his scream. Who is Chuso? What's going on? What happened? Suddenly, Chuso was catapulted out by something. In the blink of an eye, he was gone. Chuso flew far away, opening a new path. A black hole formed like a vortex, sucking in the wind. The elders shook, looking lost as they raised their heads from the pile of dirt. The warrior embraced the old woman with emotion. "I'm alive! Maybe the sky is helping us." Meanwhile, Raimuninha looked around, confused. She glanced at the remnants left at the site. The goblin would return to normal, with a face that clearly showed his obsession with the demonic mask. Reluctantly, she said, "I'll go first." "Are you saying you couldn't leave that mask behind and had to bring it with you?" Chuso confirmed. He shouted, incredulous, "Damn, I can't believe she had this excuse. You're definitely dead." Get me out of here quickly." Raimuninha was confused, thinking about how to get the mask out of there. She held the mask in her hand as if it were a hot potato. "No, I didn't know. Seriously. I had no idea it was a unique, non-negotiable item. The unique demon summoning mask that couldn't be exchanged. I just wanted to return it to you, or someone might take it." Chuso sank into the wall, furious. If she heard that, she would be as dead as the mask. When the goblins finally stopped, slowly, like a bunch of crazies, the protagonist could conclude that it was the end. Then he spotted the warrior moving forward. The guy explained that this was all the property he and his wife owned. Chuso, still venting, suddenly froze. What did he say? He apologized and thanked for the help, then insisted that Okri apologize too. With an authoritative expression, he asked her to apologize quickly. Then the protagonist asked if he wanted to pay some money to atone for having touched them. The offer was in the air, but checking the money became the priority before deciding whether to spare the guy. On hearing this, Raimuninha was clearly dissatisfied. He shouted, "Hey, fifth sud, do you really think about grabbing all that cash? That's the couple's savings, you got it?" He stepped closer in a comforting way. Relax, we've already decided to drop this mess. The two reconciled quickly. As he said, this dangerous game can end us at any moment. The protagonist decided to sell the computer to spend more time with his wife, so the money no longer mattered. Ryo Anin was strange, but he smiled satisfied as he handed over the cash. Hearing that, he thought that this was also the price for the life he saved. Besides, the two were going to withdraw from the game anyway. If not turned into cash, it would just be a waste of time. Hearing that, the others joined in a whisper. Hey, but things in this game can turn into cash. So what's going on? Of course, if you go to the bank, they'll exchange everything for you. Pure sadness, right? He patted the advisor on the shoulder, saying, cut it out and get out of the game quick. The warrior hesitated, but seeing her determination, he decided to follow. They had already apologized, so it was better to hurry before the guy got stuck. Chuso lost patience and shouted, Hey, are you still standing there? Ryo Anin's cheerful voice came, What else? They stuck out their tongues in unison, kind of saying, Just leave! With anger at its peak, she blurted out, Oh, just so you know, your goblin stopped being naked a long time ago. The golden NPC deity appeared, shouting, Level 40! Looks like your adventurer is already at a good level. He moved closer, staring into the eyes of the wild dog. Just by looking, you could tell that the summoned goblin with skins was at level 41. He had become stronger and was now almost at the same level. He sighed slightly and, in a calm voice, said, Maybe it's time to share a secret. Dane turned around with class and said, Come take a walk with me. But the guy's impatient side spoke up. What the hell, you're stalling, you bastard. Hurry up and show the mission. Gold, with his mind wandering, said, All this time I've been looking for someone like you. Meanwhile, Jutsu was getting stressed, spinning Google in his hand like a lunatic. The man in front continued oblivious, saying, A buddy who shares my vision, why don't you listen? Gold began to guide the crowd towards the main storyline. Have you heard of the great 1,000-year war between humans and monsters, huh? What the hell does that mean after all? Or, Guido rumbled like the fury of the sky and seemed endless. As you know, the epic war ended with humanity emerging victorious. The narrative nostalgically recalled that the monsters were defeated and imprisoned, and from then on, humanity enjoyed an era of peace. Gold led the uncle into a dimly lit room. The protagonist casually assessed, Looks intense, huh? But what the hell does that have to do with the mission? Gold pulled a blazing torch from somewhere and explained that humanity needed a target to channel all the hatred. He illuminated an enormous cage where a fierce beast was kept. Thus, the existence of monsters became essential. His expression was serious, and around here, absolutely terrifying. There's even one of those monsters in the village. If it escapes, it'll be a disaster. Gold said that humanity could only unite when facing common enemies, the monsters. To maintain peace among humans, the monsters had to stick around. He foresaw a dark future. The war was about to explode again, and to prevent that, they would have to make a decision. He tilted his head and spoke seriously. If many have to die, it's just to save more. It's a choice you can't escape from. Chusu, with a sneering air, said, Why all this drama? That's strange. You didn't even skip the chat this time. It seemed Gold wasn't joking at all. He commanded, Listen here. Kimetsu ignored the nonsense and said, I'm going to recreate that epic war. His voice rose as he said, The path ahead is going to be sinister. You're going to join me. The system screen appeared with two options, to follow or not. What's your choice? Chusu smiled. Either you choose to join for the mission to roll on, right? He pressed the red text. And then, if you choose not to accompany or not, the deal is to try not to leave this time. Gold prepared to extend his hand, passing. Again, he said, I need you. Even so, he pressed again. The NPC in front repeated, Think a little more. I need you. Wow. It seems like this was designed to force people to press join. Then came Chusu's boring conversation. The NPC kept saying, Think again, and he replied, Oh, I'm not doing that. Suddenly, Gold did something unusual. He drew his sword and took an attacking stance. There was no escape. He had a plan to force someone to follow him. With that, the level 70 NPC god unleashed this gem. That's when Chu broke through and started pleading, What the heck, man? He thought to himself, he was just joking and in the end agreed to follow. He had already warned that he would, right? But the blade of the sword did not hesitate and struck true. Oh crap, he exclaimed, his face contorting in pain as the wounds began to bleed. It was then that he realized something was strange in the air. What is that now? Hey, Why wasn't he feeling any pain from a hit from someone of that level? Wait a minute. At that moment, Chusui began to rethink everything. This mission required level 40 to be accepted. How could this player face a god of such proportions? The battle was heading towards a guaranteed defeat against the level 170 relic Golem. And just like last time, this defeat was mandatory. It was exactly what was expected from the match. The defeat and the downgrade to mere companion status, something he didn't want. He leaned in to provoke, thinking, is that all? I'm still strong as an ox, or even more than a chicken if you know what I mean. Then, out of nowhere, a goblin appeared next to him. Chuso shouted for him to stop. Hey, wait, don't kill! In reality, they were just teaching a fight, but it was too late. The goblin used a stone-throwing ability. He was in shock, yelling, I told you not to kill him, you bastard! But it was no use. The blow was painful. Oh God, are you okay? They asked. He looked back and noticed a hole in his body. Thank goodness it was the level 70 NPC god. All he could think was, damn, you're really strong. Now he admitted to an absolutely perfect hit. His body was enveloped in a blue light, indicating he was going to be teleported. Well, that's it. He fell into despair. Now what? I need this to get the next mission. For that, Chuso could only scream, Goblin, do everything you can and attack. Then, suddenly, there was a flash of golden light. The monsters lunged into the desert, along with electric scorpions. A wizard with blonde hair and iron armor introduced himself. This is my turf, he said. The wizard's face turned pale at the thought of the trash monsters. He realized they still hadn't killed any. This was really getting on Chuso's nerves. Give up? Never. This isn't anyone's territory, right? All the electric scorpions were eliminated, but he was in despair. His mission had gone down the drain, and he knew the bug fixes were running out. The time to enjoy goblin power was slipping away. The leader pointed his staff at those electric monsters. Once he finished the spell, a lightning bolt struck, the only hit that made a scorpion explode. He charged forward furious, ready to demand an answer. Hey, who was the brave one? He shouted, filled with anger. This place is mine! And only Chuso, with the look of someone spoiling for a fight, activated PK mode. It only worked like a lunatic. It means I got here first. After a little while, Chulso summoned the Goblin, the level 41 provocateur, who finally leveled up to 44. That place was a mess. He got lost looking at the screen, grinding the area for days, and still couldn't hit a million. One hopeless thought after another, draining his will to live. Damn it, this is pathetic, he thought. Killing random monsters only brought scraps. He needed some good cash, like when he took down the Geiger. Several questions hammered in his head, so he decided to venture into the high-level dungeon with a goblin in tow. His life should have meant something, but he was still stuck. The editor kept insisting he should go for stronger dungeons. Everything has to be at the right time, even with the summoned beast that could wipe everything out in one hit. He found himself in this zone of trash monsters. One day, a notification warned of a bug in the summoned beast, and just when everything seemed calm, they had to fix it, and he lost everything. Of course, that was unfair. It felt like everyone was conspiring to crush him. Shu pulled his hair, groaning. Someone was definitely rooting for his destruction. Damn it, how could so much bad luck happen? This is bullshit, I can't believe this is happening. Then, the system flashed a notification. PK mode, what the hell is this? Right after that, someone gave a brutal slap on the back of his neck. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like to support us. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because the next recap is going to be insane, guys. And comment what you would do in his place. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next video.